Hello, good evening. This is the July 2nd Development Review Board meeting for the town of Essex. My name is Kent Johnson. I'm the staff representative for the Development Review Board. I'm starting the meeting tonight because this is the annual organizational meeting. So right now we don't have any officers. Those positions have all expired. So our first order of business is to elect the officers. The first one being the chair. So the rules are that the organizational meeting shall be held at the first meeting after the new term takes effect, which is tonight. To hold the election, the staff representative for the meeting shall call the meeting to order and accept any nominations for the chair. All nominations shall be made before a vote, and votes must be taken in the order of the nominations. If the first vote elects a chair, there is no need to hold subsequent votes. The chair then takes control of the meeting and asks for nominations for vice chair. And then we'll go on to a clerk. And as a reminder, on March 3rd at town meeting, it was decided that the DRB would be reduced to 5 members, so all 5 members are present tonight. So to select any of these positions, we need 3 votes, at least 3 votes in favor. So do I have any nominations for the chair?
I nominate Ian Carroll for chair.
Thank you.
Any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, anybody who is in favor of Ian being the chair, please say aye.
Aye.
All right. Ian, I guess I should have started off with that.
Thank you.
But there you go.
Welcome back.
Thank you all. Thank you for the honor. Thank you.
You're doing a great job.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. I appreciate it. Sincerely, thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, so then the next order of business for us would be to accept nominations for vice chair, and just in a matter of time, I'm okay if you wanted to nominate for vice chair and clerk at the same time, but happy to do it individually. So, vice chair, do we have any nominations for vice chair, please?
I nominate Nick Martin for vice chair and Sharon for clerk.
Okay, fair enough. Okay. Any other nominations? Hearing none. All those in favor of Nick Martin as vice chair and Sharon as clerk, say aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0. Okay. So we now have our officers for the next year. So the next item that we have on our agenda this evening, we'll carry on as our regular business. Just a reminder that we're calling to order the first meeting of the new year on this Thursday, July 2nd of 2026. And we want to make sure that everybody's got your cell phones muted, please. Online, keep your cameras on, but your mics muted, please. Raise your hand emoji if you wish to speak. Can we take a quick roll call of all the members of the board that are here this evening? I'll start with you, Sharon.
Sharon Zakowski, board member.
Nick Martin, board member.
Stephanie Bixby, board member.
Hubie Norton, board member.
Ian Carroll, board member. And Kent, you already said yourself.
Yep.
So, excellent, thank you. Make sure that you've signed in if you have any intention to speak this evening, and if you are feeling like you may be an interested party, make sure when you sign in, indicate which application it was that you are an interested party to. Thank you. Staff, do we have any additions or changes to the agenda this evening?
No, I don't.
Okay. And board members, any additions or changes?
No.
Thank you. The only addition that I see that we will talk about at the end is what wasn't mailed out in the packet happened to be the upcoming agenda, which will be part of our reading file. I'm just noting that so for the minutes of the meeting, we'll have that is now part of the reading file going forward, and will be in the minutes going forward for next couple of meetings. And that's just our expected agenda over the next few meetings. All those in favor of the agenda, as discussed, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Now we come to our everyone's favorite part. This is the public to be heard section. For public to be heard, we just want to remind folks that these are comments from the public for items that are not on this evening's agenda. Reminder that the purpose of this board is to act on specific applications using current regulations. For discussions regarding changes to zoning or general philosophy of town business, please bring these topics to the Planning Commission or the Select Board. Reminder that we're all neighbors here. Please be respectful. Keep your comments brief. And if somebody's already stated your thoughts, please feel free to speak and say ditto to get yourself on the record for agreeing with that other person. We'll start off with anybody here in the room. Can I see a hand for anybody in the room that has an item that they would like to speak about that is not on this evening's agenda? Seeing none. How about online? Seeing none. I don't want to rush, but it looks like we have no additional comments, so we can move on to the next item of business, which would be approval of the minutes of the meeting. This would be approval for minutes from June 4th, 2026. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting?
I move to approve the minutes of the meeting,
Okay, thank
June
you,
4th
Sharon.
meeting.
Moved by Sharon. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
I'll second. Okay, go ahead. Okay. Stephanie has seconded. Any discussion about the minutes?
Line 159.
159. Yes, sir.
They could easily add hand sanitizer statements. I think
Probably not.
this is probably means
Probably not hand
stand-
sanitizer statements.
Stands probably.
Stands. Correct. Thank you. Hubie, anything else?
I thought we had a few public comments regarding the applications, and I didn't see public comments anywhere.
Fair enough. I'd have to go back and look. So if you feel like we're missing some public comments, then I would suggest that we
Yeah, because we
do
had,
not approve the minutes.
yeah, I think we had,
I'll
I
go
think
back and
there were
do that.
people online that had comments and so on.
Okay.
And I didn't see any mention at all of any public comments.
Come to think of it, I don't either, so. Were there any other grammaticals in there?
No,
Hello?
nothing else, but.
Thank you.
That
I
was-
want to capture all of any other changes we might have
Yeah,
before we.
Yeah,
move on.
no, nothing that, but
Stephanie, you were not present.
I wasn't
so
present.
Nick, any changes or anything that,
No, procedurally, that we should probably rescind our motion to
agreed?
approve
I just
that.
want to make sure I capture the rest of this.
Then no others.
Minor changes. Sharon?
I rescind my motion to.
Okay, thank you. Stephanie?
I rescind my second.
Thank you. So we're going to hold off on approving the minutes of the meeting. We're going to make sure as staff, we have an opportunity to just double check and make sure that the minutes are updated with any public comments that we don't see here. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Moving on. Next item we have is a business item. There's a request from 68 Pinecrest Drive LLC for an extension of their sketch approval of a PUD, planned unit development, at 68 Pinecrest Drive. We have a copy of the memorandum. It was in our packet. We've had an opportunity to read it. Before we get to a vote on this, just a quick discussion. Sharon, do you have any comments or questions about this?
I sort of would like to see what we're extending.
We're,
instead of just-
we're extending the site plan for another year
Right, but I don't have a copy of the
of the original site plan.
Site plan approval. So I just would have liked to see that.
Yeah, I went back and looked at the site plan approval from
Yeah.
last year in the record, but
Yeah,
just to refresh my memory about what it was. But I remember we approved it 5-0 at the time.
yeah, okay,
So, and this is just an extension of that same site plan. No development is occurring at this time.
got it.
Nick, any questions or comments about this?
Nope.
Stephanie?
Nope.
no.
Hubie? Okay. All those in favor of approving the 1-year extension of the site plan for 68 Pinecrest Drive, please say aye.
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 Opposed?
Aye. Should we make a motion and second that?
Yeah, all right, you're right. You want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I mean, I've only been in this role for like 20 minutes.
This is
So-
true, this is true.
Probably shouldn't have been in business
You're a
items.
baby at this, right?
Yeah, it's just for a business item, it's similar to like what the consent agenda item was, what used to be the consent agenda item. But yeah, you're right, we should make a motion, so thank you for making the first motion. Do I have a second for this?
Second.
Stephanie, thank you. Any other further discussion? All those in favor of approving the 1-year extension of the sketch approval for 68 Pinecrest Drive, please say aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Okay, public hearing time. So a reminder for the public, proceedings will feature first a staff presentation with questions from the board directly. Then the applicants will be called up to give us some information, and we'll have the board will have an opportunity to question the applicants before we open testimony from interested parties. Pursuant to state statute, only interested persons who provide testimony during the hearings have a right to appeal any board decisions to the environmental court. While we're at this, we're going to provide the oath for everyone both in the room as well as online. Those of you online who have any intention of speaking this evening, I would appreciate it if you would raise your hand emoji. And if possible, please turn on your cameras so that we can see that you are in earnest. And those of you in the room who are planning on having any chance of possibly speaking this evening, please raise your hands as I provide the oath. Thank you. Do you affirm that the evidence you are giving in the cause under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury? Please say aye. And I believe, Ms. Loom, we have you. Thank you.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. So item 8A is a continuation from our April 2nd hearing. It's a variance request. Laurie and Baktash Nelson are requesting a variance of the side setback of their property located at 152 Old Stage Road, located in the Agricultural Residential District. Variance request is to accommodate a 24 by 14 shed that is 5 feet from the property line. In the AR district, the minimum setback is 20 feet. Staff, what we have for us?
I think the only the only new information that I have is hearing from the town attorney if there's a disagreement with where a property line is. It's not for the DRB to try to resolve a disagreement with a property line. However, in this particular case, I think that there's an agreement where the property line is that's pertinent to the shed. And there's an agreement that the shed is within the setback area where it's not supposed to be. So I don't think there's actually a disagreement with this specific property line or a disagreement where the shed is in relationship to this specific property line.
Okay.
I do believe that the applicant has some new information that they would like to share tonight that did not come in time for the packet. So they can have an opportunity to share that. And at this point, once you collect all the information that you need, then the DRB needs to determine whether or not it does meet the 5 criteria to be considered for variance, and document how you are determining that. That's all I have.
So if I can paraphrase, our decision this evening is either the 5 criteria have been met to potentially grant a waiver, or the shed would have to be moved or removed from at least the infringement.
That's right.
Okay. And you guys provided, everybody has a copy of the legal opinion that was about this specifically, correct? Our opinion about what we're supposed to review this evening. Okay, thank you. Staff, thank you. And Sharon, any questions for staff on this?
No.
Okay. Nick?
No.
Stephanie?
No.
Yubi?
I guess clarification that you say there is agreement between the parties as to where the property line is, what the property line that they both agree to. And that property line is how far away from the shed?
That the shed is within the setback area in relationship to where the line is that they agree on. Whether the shed's 5 feet or 4 feet or 3 feet or
Okay.
6 feet, I don't know that it's been narrowed down that much, but it's within the space to the degree that you would either need to decide that it meets a variance requirement,
Right.
and that could potentially be granted, or that it doesn't and the shed needs to be moved.
You said there's new information that came in. What's the new information?
From the, I think that following the last meeting, the reason it was continued was to try to get some more information about if there were disputed property lines, like if other property lines around the area are disputed, what would be the process for dealing with that, I think is why you didn't make a decision last time.
Right.
And if there is a dispute about other property lines in other locations, that wouldn't be something for the board to weigh in on, but I don't think that's actually in front of us to decide at this
No,
point.
but you had said there was new information that had come in before the pack.
Oh,
after the
right,
packet
that
was put
the
together. What-
applicant has with them that they can present tonight. I don't have it.
Oh, okay, okay, all right.
I have no questions for staff. You're all set?
Yeah.
Okay. In that case, I will invite the applicants to come up. If you would come up to the stage, if you will, and present your testimony. If you would first make sure that you use the microphones, outline your names, addresses. Thank you. For public record, because we're on TV, so. That's right.
Yeah, I'm Laurie Nelson, the resident at 152 Old Stage Road.
And I'm back here, Baktash Nelson, resident 152 Old Estate Road.
Thank you. Tell us about your.
I'm so sorry. We brought the packet on June 30th, and they said you passed the deadline for submission. So I copied all for every board member here for tonight.
Okay.
I'm so sorry. I didn't know there's a cutoff line. So if I can.
Sure. Hand him to Kent and he'll get him out to us. Yep. Yeah, Kent would be the 6th. Yeah. Thank you.
I'll give you a few minutes to just look through that.
Sorry, I'm just getting my documents together. I can start. First, thank you for coming tonight again. It's close to for July 4th. I know you guys are closed tomorrow. One of the issues that mentioned just now, we are not in agreement with the property line at all. Our surveyor was, we were in contact with our surveyor. We got a lot of new information as how the survey goes and what data or what source they use to do the survey. So our survey, Mr. Haggerty, mentioned VCGI, which is the Vermont Center for Geographic Information, that oversees the collection and provisions of the high-resolution, freely available, geo-referenced ortho imagery throughout the Vermont. They changed that every 2 years, then it started this program in 1994. When we bought 152 Old Stage Road, we bought it based on this map. This is the Vermont, this is the Town of Essex zoning map where we bought the house. And it says it was 1972 surveyed and revised in 1978. Those information was not uploaded to the data. And Mr. Haggerty basically said what Mr. Jim Weston said. The whole subdivision needs to move 20 feet south. Means our neighbor at the last is going to go to Extension Tower Road. He said, for us, it's very difficult as a surveyor to come and squeeze that 20 feet in between all these neighbors and come up with a solution. So now I look at the new survey, I look at Ms. Frigo's deed has changed. She lost the longitude of her property. If you look at the deed, she has about 426, now she has 402, or 417 goes to 402, she lost. Mr. Jim Weston gained 15 feet of her property. And now she has to get a quitclaim deed, change her deed, we have to change our deed, and all the other neighbors have to change their deed. So when I talked to Mr. Haggerty, he said, listen, a survey is an opinion. I can't tell you where they are. And yes, we found John Marsh pin, and you're right. You did everything based on John Marsh. So I came to Town of Essex. I went and find out what Miss Frigo was got permit for. Was a massive garage and a loft. It's a double story in 2017. She didn't get a resurvey. She didn't get any survey for it. As a matter of fact, it's one of the exhibits. If you look at the exhibit, I'll show you. She, unfortunately, I don't know if this mic works.
Point of order.
So,
Chair, can I ask you a question?
Yes, please.
So we received a legal opinion that we can't rule
We can't have
on.
anything to do with the,
So,
with the
so I
property
think,
boundaries.
and I'm sorry to interrupt,
No,
but
no,
I think if this is a property boundary dispute, we're wasting everybody's time because we can't make this decision.
I feel like there are two issues at the moment that put a halt on us being able to make a decision of this evening at the moment. This late
is-
submission, which I'm sure is probably excellent information, but to ask the board to read through this and try to make a decision based on some of this information, and I'm not even sure if the counterparties have had an opportunity to review this either. It's not a matter of our public record at this point. So what I would suggest would be that we perhaps continue this application at this point. You need to resolve your boundary issues before we can provide a variance on whether or not there's actually a boundary, right? If the original boundary was where things should be, there's no variance needed. If the boundary gets agreed upon or is settled as being something where you have to have a variance in order to keep your shed there, then we could make a decision about that. So I would suggest that we keep this as part of our official record in the continuance, and it'll be part of the packet that gets in there. And we want to make sure that anyone else that is an interested party has an opportunity to review this as well.
so our question is how we can resolve this issue, because as Mr. Weston also said last time, the Vermont Land Survey didn't want to do the survey because it affects the entire subdivision. And the town of Essex now has either, to get rid of the extension tower road. I don't think so. That's going to be an easy issue to resolve. We can resolve it. It has to be either all the neighbors and town of Essex together. I mean, it's not upon us to do that.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with you on that at all. Unfortunately, and I don't mean to sound like it's a not me thing, but to be honest, what you're trying to accomplish here this evening is not something that's in our purview, right? So I would say that that the best opportunity that I can give you for this, or that we could give you for this evening, would be to continue this application until that is resolved. And how you have to resolve that is not with us to tell you how to do that. So I would continue to work with the Community Development Office and figure out ways that you're going to be able to settle on the boundary lines before we can actually make a ruling on whether or not there's a boundary issue.
Okay, can I at least, for the record, can I mention, because all the case laws that were submitted, I would like to very briefly mention.
You have provided us with a packet, which was going to
Yes.
become a matter of the minutes of
Yes.
this meeting, so it will be publicly available.
Just there's something that I would like to say, because it was mentioned. The case laws that was submitted, they are amazing, but they don't apply. None of them applies. And the reason they don't apply, because everything had happened for us before getting the permit, not after. If you read these case laws, everything has happened after the fact. They keep saying that we built this shed in violation of the setback. No, we built it actually on a previous survey that everybody else in that subdivision used, including Ms. Frigo herself, to build her garage, right? So we did not violate anything. We went actually over the border. I have photos show you. We went 36 feet, and actually we measured it again. One other
I can
issue.
appreciate, I appreciate how
Yes.
passionate you are about this, and I understand.
Yes.
This is certainly an unsettling issue with the boundary lines.
Yes.
And I can appreciate the fact that you want to make sure you get all that additional information, but you're still talking about boundary lines, which is not
Yes.
that's not in
I
our.
understand.
in our
If you're
purview.
talking about variance, I just want to make sure that the board whereas we meet all the 5 criteria, and I'm happy to discuss every one of them. I mean, it's in the package.
If there's a need for a variance, perhaps you do,
Yes.
but we can't even look at it until we figure out what the boundary is.
Absolutely, I agree with you. Yes.
So I would make a suggestion, and I'm not trying to just toss you out on something
no, I
that's
understand.
it's important with this, but
Yeah.
we can't make a ruling on it this evening.
I absolutely agree with you. If I may, the last thing I would like to mention in a public record is we never trespassed anything. My wife was mowing the lawn. The lawnmower hit the stake, and the broken piece still is in the ground. I just put it back and hammered it, and I took photo, and I measured it again, everything. And all the neighbors, one by one, came and eyewitnessed there that they are here to testify if needed. But Ms. Frigo stood in our land to take that photo. So we have surveillance cameras.
Right.
And so if you're talking about trespassing, we never trespass.
I'm not
Just
talking
put-
about trespassing because it's not, we're not a court here to decide
Exactly.
boundary lines. So
But it was
we are
fine.
quasi judicial, but we're not in that manner.
Yeah,
So
it was filed with the town of Essex. I just wanted to have it on
I
the
can
record.
appreciate that.
Thank you.
I think at this point, and I think I would want to take a motion to continue this application until the boundary issue can be resolved, so that we could then perhaps make a decision about a variance.
I move to continue this application until the boundary issue is resolved.
We do need to pick a
To set date,
particular
I
We
would-
do have to take a
Pick a date.
particular date, so we would continue it to, we actually happen to have a handy-dandy copy
Oh, good.
of our next agenda. Wow, September 3rd looks
Wide
excellent, but
open.
I'm not sure that that would be enough time.
Yeah.
I would go to October.
I would probably go to the first meeting in October, which would be, calendar out. Come on. Here, I'm using the. brought 'em
So
out.
why not September? There's nothing there.
I'm not sure that,
Where
because
does
I'm
the-
not sure that that's enough time to get the boundary issue resolved.
Those things,
Oh.
So I put it on.
it might even,
Oh.
It might even-
they're
There's-
lucky if
there's,
it's October.
there's, there's probably not enough time in the next 6 months or 2 years to get that boundary line resolved.
That's true.
So,
First Thursday in September is, no, we said not September, October. First Thursday in October is the 1st.
Want me to repeat the motion?
Yeah, please, if you would.
What date did you say? October?
October 1st.
October 1st. I move to continue the hearing for the variance request for 152 Old Stage Road to October 1st of this year.
Do you have a second?
second,
Motion made by Stephanie,
Sharon.
Sharon,
Whoever.
seconded by Hubie. Any further discussion?
Yes.
Please.
What if this application, or I should say the applicants and the disputed parties were to come together and agree upon leaving the shed where it is? They
Could be just withdrawn.
perhaps they readjust the boundary line themselves, have some kind of legal extending circumstance where they can agree upon it. Will it need to come to us anyway?
No,
No.
no, because it would be resolved.
'Kay.
So. Any further discussion? All those in favor of rescheduling this to October 1?
well, excuse me, I do have one other question. If,
Sure.
we're not running into any deadlines here by extending this, are we?
Can I just clarify that even if both of the property owners agree that the shed can stay where it is, if it encroaches into the setback, it would still require a variance to stay there. I'm not sure if I caught that quite right before, but
Yep.
And it's still
for
have to
that.
meet all
And you're
5
wondering about a
criteria.
different deadline?
I'm wondering because if we haven't made a decision on this, okay,
Is there a time?
is there a timeline, a time limit when now suddenly there's no decision to be made because
It's not a
I
complete
don't
application,
believe
right?
so, because we're in the process of working on it, and it's still, since it's continued, it's still open and moving.
Right.
But I can double check on that. I'll double check to make sure. But I don't think there's any problem with it.
because I know in the past that if there's been a application has been warned and we don't have a hearing within a particular amount of time, the application can be approved automatically.
Didn't they change that to 121 days also?
Yeah, but we had the hearing, we're just continuing it.
Yeah,
because
it's
we
still-
don't-
That's,
Even if
right,
that were
and
so.
that's what I'm trying to clarify,
Yep.
to make sure that we're not running into any.
No, because we're having the
question.
hearing, we're saying we can't make a determination still because we have this outstanding piece of information. And as Ian said, if the boundary line comes through and the shed's not in the setback, we're not needed.
Correct.
But if it comes through and it is in the setback, then we all have to come back to this table and have this conversation.
Correct.
Yeah.
Any other further discussion?
There's someone from the audience that's got.
Yes.
I just want to say one more time this question. So how are we going to resolve the boundary issues with all these neighbors and the entire, because we're leaving tonight.
Yep.
But I want a resolution. I want to know what to say to my neighbors.
And I
You're
understand
gonna
what,
have to figure that out. We
That's
can't
not-
tell you how to do that,
it isn't
unfortunately.
for us to say, but you have a comment, I think, sir, correct?
Chair, did they get the legal opinion? Because that sort of explains it.
I think.
Yeah, you're right. The
Hope they
legal
got that.
opinion that we have,
Because we got that late in the day,
Well,
right?
that's directly to
Or
us.
was that only directly to?
DRB does not have authority to address the correct location of a boundary lines in a dispute between property owners, per 24 VSA 4460E, setting forth review functions of appropriate municipal panels. Environmental Division is also a court of limited appellate jurisdiction and can only review those issues the municipal panel below had authority to address when considering the original application. If there's a dispute, there are options for property owner to determine the location of a common boundary line. Property owner may engage in a professional land surveyor licensed by the Board of Land Surveyors to survey the property and prepare a survey map. Abutting property owners may also agree on the location of a boundary line or request a boundary line adjustment. Absent an agreement between neighbors, a property owner would need to seek judicial confirmation of their boundary line in the Civil Division of Superior Court. A boundary line dispute is not a matter for the municipality to resolve. Based on the information, the testimony provided DRB in the present matter, property owners, Nelson's appear to acknowledge the original survey is incorrect. Yeah, the rest of it is, that's basically, you basically have to, if you can't agree, then it's going to go to the Civil Division of Superior Court.
Can we have a copy of that, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
He can
And
have-
the
he
other
can have
thing,
mine, I have one at home.
yeah,
We can do that.
Oh, actually, no, because this is an opinion to
From-
us from our attorney about what we can rule on.
okay.
Specifically, so it's not, it's legal advice that we had in order
Yes.
to be able to make this decision.
So
Was it going to be in the public packet?
No.
Was it?
No, I don't.
I don't know.
Why
if
don't
it
I-
was,
why
'cause
don't I
it's our
double check?
advice.
Oh, I thought that was the email. that it
Why
was-
don't I double check on that?
Yeah.
And I will certainly provide whatever information I can for you, whether it's
Thank
the actual piece of paper or whether it's just
Just a
a
breakout of what it
summary
yes,
of what that is so that you can get on the right track for it.
forgive me for my lack of information, but when the town accepts or has it, you go now, it says official Town of Essex maps, and there are PDFs. When you go there and you still see that map there, the old one, and that's what we bought the house and we got the deed. Is it that ruling, or everybody can come and just say, oh no, I now today want to make a new boundary line and this is my license and I'm a surveyor, let's change everything. My question is like, how much town has authority over this map? And what we do with our deeds, is it under the town's authority or it goes above the town authority?
If there's a dispute, it goes above the town and goes to the Civil Division of Superior Court.
So basically, all that map, official map, has changed. Basically,
It's a dispute between what you feel is a boundary and your neighbor has a boundary. And it's a dispute that can't be settled here with us.
I see.
So I can appreciate, I'd love to continue talking about this all night long, but
No,
to
no, I
be honest,
understand.
we're in a position where there's nothing that we can do for you this
Absolutely.
evening. So,
Thank
and
you.
continue having conversations with the community development department if you have those questions. And certainly Kent, like you said, we'll double check and see if we can't necessarily give you the actual copy of our opinion for our work that we're doing. You can at least maybe break it down for you so that you can understand where to go to look.
Yeah, I mean, again, we just want to resolve the problem. Like, we are not
I
here,
totally
it's
get
not a
that.
winning or losing case. It's not. We are not here to fight. We just want a resolution. We want to
Agreed.
make sure everybody's happy. And
I can tell
how
you
to
right
get
now,
there.
if you could agree on what the boundary line is, we'd be happy to make a ruling. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Attorney Daniel Sutton. I represent Ms. Frigo.
Yes.
Have you heard on this boundary line issue? Very briefly.
To be honest, we're not here to rule about the boundary issue. So unless you're about to agree with the boundaries that have been put forth here, then I don't know that there's anything for us to listen to at this point.
I think I can help.
Okay.
When the applicants filed their variance application, they included an email message from their surveyor, Mr. Haggard. And he says in that email, and that's November 4th, 2025 email, the variance application, he says, I'm paraphrasing here, I have it right here, that he agrees with Ms. Frigo's surveyor as to where the boundary line is. There's no dispute where the boundary line is. This is all a diversion to try to delay what we think is the inevitable here. The parties agree where the boundary line is. They put in an email from their own surveyor saying that he agrees with Ms. Frigo's surveyor. So I don't understand how this supposed boundary line dispute is going to be resolved. It's already been agreed. Everybody agrees that the shed is not only within the setback.
I can appreciate what you're saying there, and I agree that was in the comment. The applicant at this point has told us that they're not in agreement. So if they're not in agreement, we can't make a ruling.
The zoning administrator has already issued a notice of violation, and that's been months now. So if there was going to be a challenge to the boundary line and say, hey, we're really within the we're really outside the setback and the 25-foot permit distance, that would have been the time to do it.
I'm not disagreeing with you, other than the fact that we now are under the understanding that there is an agreement on any of the boundary lines at this point. So there's not anything that we can continue to rule with this evening. Yes.
I understand where you're going with that point, that this could be dragged on forever and that the shed could just be there forever. I will check with the zoning administrator and see what the timeline kind of is for this and how long it can keep going. This is a unique case for me, so I'm not sure how to address that. But I see where you're going with that, and I'll see what information I can find out.
There's no question that everybody on this board wants to get this resolved, but we have to have something that we can actually rule on, and we don't currently.
May I ask staff a quick question? So, in essence, it could, if really there is no argument about the boundary line, that it could be a violation that Sharon handles and has nothing to do with us also. Okay.
Right, it would be a violation that Sharon, you'd have to move it.
And they might
You
have to move the
it, or
shed.
they would have to come and apply for a variance. That's one or the other.
Right, exactly.
Right. So our before us this evening was, our only choice was going to be either we approve of the variance or it's got to get moved.
Got it.
But
I just want.
if there's not going to be an agreement on where the line is, then we can't make that decision.
Can I ask?
Yes.
So, excuse me, sir, again, are you saying that the surveyor that Ms. Fogel used and the surveyor that Nelson's used, they both agree on the same line?
I'm sorry, is that a question for me?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that. The Nelson surveyor is saying that in an email message that the Nelsons submitted to this board when they filed their variance application. I'm just reading from their surveyor's email that they submitted to you months ago.
No.
That's not me.
Okay.
No, you got to read the email in entirety. Mr. Haggerty says, I am largely in agreement with what has been done, but he found the sporadic evidence of barbed wire fence that was recovered in the ground that points to that John Marsh pin that we used to put the shed. So he's not 100% agree. And the further discussion with him, he said, these are all opinion. We have to squeeze that 20 feet that is missing into this property. And the surveyor, I talked to Mr.
Okay,
Terry
so
too.
we're back
Yeah,
where
we're
back
there's
again
no
with the
agreement.
same
There's
thing.
no agreement.
He didn't
There's
say
no
100%.
agreement.
I
There's no agreement.
can
No
appreciate, gentlemen, I appreciate all you folks. I 100% appreciate where this is at, and I understand that this is a tough test of neighbor. Good fences make neighbors, but this is one of those issues that it's not anything that we're going to have resolved this evening. Period. And I understand that you want to get this expedited and would like to get a decision. So would we. I would strongly recommend, we have this continued to October 1. I would strongly recommend that at all costs you try to get this the boundary issue resolved first, so that if there is a need for an actual variance, we can hear it and make a decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a motion that's been made, we have a second that's been made, and we've had a lot of discussion. I would say at this point, all those in favor of continuing this application to October 1, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Okay. Next item that we have here this evening, we have 8B, and please, folks, if you don't mind, we are continuing our meeting, so if you don't mind exiting quietly, we appreciate it. 8B, this is a site plan for GLC Lyon Associates LLC. They are proposing to add a residential triplex at 58 Center Road, and located in the high-density residential, or R3 district, and in the business design control overlay, or B-DC districts. Please, can I get a motion for opening the public hearing for this?
I move to open the public hearing for the application for 58 Center Road.
Thank you, Sharon. Can I get a second, please?
Second.
Seconded by Nick. Further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of opening the hearing for site plan for GLC Lyon Associates, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0.
Boy, that cleaned up that room, didn't it?
Sure did. Staff, who do you have for us on this one?
Well, this is pretty straightforward. I guess there are 4 things in the staff report that I just want to draw your attention to. The first being on page 6 of 19 in the staff report. It talks about wetlands that might possibly be on the property. And the governor issued an executive order last fall exempting certain housing projects from certain wetland regulations that the state has. These are not town regulations. Certain parts of that executive order have not gone into effect yet. So there are some links in the document there where people can find out more information. In the end, what I'm recommending beginning on line 179 is just that the DRB requires as a condition of approval that the applicant obtains their necessary state and if they need any federal permits, and they provide those copies to the town prior to the issuance of a permit. That's pretty standard language. That's in our zoning anyways, even if I didn't include it in here, just to make sure that before the applicant actually starts construction, that they are in compliance with whatever the state's wetland requirements are at the time. So, and then on a similar topic, but slightly different to that, in the Public Works comments beginning on line 449 on page 14. To deal with the stormwater runoff on the project, like the water coming off the roof of the building and off of the parking lot, they are expecting that the soil would be adequately permeable to absorb the water on their site, and they're basing that on mapping that's available publicly on the internet. In this particular case, since there have already been concerns in this area of runoff issues and impacting basements and things like that, just to be extra careful that the soil actually will be permeable enough, Public Works is recommending that the DRB makes a condition that they actually have soil borings done to verify the soil type and the infiltration rates to make sure that the soil actually will absorb the water as expected. I brought that up to the applicants as an issue, and my understanding is that they're okay with that being a condition of approval, is my understanding at least. But those two different situations are related with the wetlands and with the infiltration rates. They're not exactly the same thing, but they're related. That's why I wanted to mention them together to make sure that whatever impact they're having on their site is not having cascade effects on adjacent sites there. A couple other things I wanted to bring to your attention. Beginning on page 8. I'm sorry, beginning on page 7. Talks about the landscaping.
What line number?
What line is it?
Starting on line number 215, where it's talking about the landscaping. There are certain requirements on this property for street trees, for landscaping in the parking areas, and for lawn and building enhancements. And the applicants provided a landscaping plan for review, which has been looked at by the Conservation and Trails Committee, which has provided a separate memo. And while the tree warden position is vacant, a person from the urban forester from the Vermont Forest Parks and Recreation Agency has agreed to provide landscaping recommendations and tree recommendations for projects until we have that position filled. So I appreciate that, and he provided a number of comments in there, which are provided, including some drawings that he provided. So, in summary, my recommendation beginning on line 314 is just recommending that you consider the recommendations from the Urban Forester along with Conservation and Trails Committee to determine, do you need more information on the plans, or do you want to see changes on the plans? That's an open question there.
Okay.
On the plans, the species of the street trees are not indicated on there, and the plantings for the screening around the parking area is not indicated specifically.
Okay.
Then the last thing I wanted to bring to your attention is Parks and Recs comments at the end of the staff report, beginning on line 476. And in particular, their recommendation that there would be a 20-foot wide non-motorized recreation easement from Center Road extending along basically their western property line, which is shown on the map on page 16. So within that area, the most important connection point being the spot that goes from Center Road behind the solar panels to connect in with the town's property is kind of the most important connection to make through there. But also, if it can continue along to the back of the property, that allows for some better long-term planning for trail usage. So that's what the Parks and Rec is recommending for you to consider. Those were the main things I wanted to bring to your attention.
Okay. Thank you. Hubie, questions for staff?
No, I'm all set, thanks.
Stephanie?
Not at this time.
Nick?
No.
Sharon?
No.
Great. Thank you. Appreciate that. Nice report. Can we get the applicants here then, please, if you would?
Sit back, relax, enjoy yourselves, kick your feet up. Tell us your names and addresses for us, if you would, for the record.
You want to word it, put it in here?
Yep, put it right in there.
Okay.
Yep.
Go first.
Sure. My name is Richard Hamlin. I'm a professional engineer here representing the applicant who sits to my left, Mr. Peter Lyon, representing the GJC Lyon Associates.
Plan.
LLC. Mr.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr.
Thanks.
Lyon.
So two introductions on my part. Both are equally important.
Yeah.
First is the Hamlin Engineers. I am amazingly proud of being using a local firm, and they know the town better than anyone. They designed the original sewer system for the community, et cetera. And Rick is effectively the second generation, and I am really pleased with his skills and his background, and I think he's treated the town really well and has paid very good attention. So that's kind of cool. Second one, you got to pay really close attention to this one is, I'm really representing my grandkids. Some of them are back there. Now, there's a bunch of them. But anyways, the goal here is to create an opportunity for them to have their housing for these three kids.
Okay.
And so we're not going to spend time on it, but it's kind of a neat, you can picture a kid in each one, be the first house, etc. And you got to honor this, otherwise I'll be in big trouble. You're not, I promised them you wouldn't talk to them, ask them questions. Any heat you got to send them my way.
So we can't ask what color
No,
carpets they're going to
no, you
want?
can't ask
yeah.
anything.
Okay,
Okay,
fair enough.
all right,
Yep.
so that's cool. Rick is in charge.
Thank you, Peter. So I guess the first question is in respect for your time. Would you like me to review the staff comments and work our way through? Should we jump right to the conditions of approval and discuss the conditions of approval? I guess it
I
probably
think
will.
probably ideally it'd be great to just give us a brief background. I mean, we have the packet, we have the information here, but a brief background from your perspective. You gave us a nice little input about what you're doing this for, but just a little bit about the project, and then yes, if you wouldn't mind, just touching base on some of the things that
Sure, and
staff
can,
talked
can
about.
we get the site plan put up onto the screen? So while that's going up, essentially what this project is a triplex on 5 acres of land in the high-density residential zone. And because of the acreage of the property, and because this is a triplex, there's a triplex that's proposed. There's also an existing residence on the parcel now. But because of the high-density residential zone, the potential for future development on this is fairly high. And so you'll see that where normally we might have used different solutions in terms of the site work to reflect just the triplex. We've been a little bit more forward thinking. However, the application before you tonight is just for the triplex. You'll actually see on the site plans, there's some placeholders. There's some blocks that show future units. And there's a big note on the plan that says they aren't necessarily going in that location. They just represent placeholders for the future. So tonight's discussion relates to that structure you see on the right, the light yellow structure, which is the proposed new triplex and the new driveway. One of the changes that you'll see along Route 15 as a part of this project is the old curb cut for the house has been closed. And the house curb cut now will share the drive that's proposed to serve the triplex. And that new curb cut has been approved by V-Trans. So this is in the location that they preferred to have the new access to Route 15. So we have that, the 1111 access permit from V-Trans. In terms of the general site, as you may recall, driving by, there are solar panels, which would be planned left to what you're looking at. And along the left boundary of the parcel is also the location where the town sanitary sewer, both gravity and force main, lie. There's a 20-foot easement on that left side of the parcel. And that contains the existing gravity sewer, which actually comes from Route 15 and back toward that parcel owned by the town, where the municipal pump station is. Then pumps from a force main back out to Route 15, and then back toward the Four Corners. And there's also the old force main that's within that route. The new force main was replaced recently. So that's happening kind of at the left end of the parcel, where our development is on the opposite side of the parcel. So generally, that's the big overview, triplex on 5 acres to help serve the much needed residential housing demand.
Okay, thank you. Do you want to talk a little bit about what staff had brought up?
I'd be happy to do that, but let me do this in the order of the staff notes, so
Sure.
maybe easier to follow along, so we aren't kind of jumping back and
Yeah, that'd be great.
forth. I think the first thing that we'd like to discuss starts at line 130, and this is protection of public health, safety, and welfare. Apparently, the fire chief, fire department, is not favorable to the location of the fire hydrant that we're proposing. And Kent, if we could go to the site plan that actually zooms in on that area, that might be helpful.
Let me see here.
There you go. So,
Let me see if I can just zoom in a little more here.
yeah, if you get in near the dumpster enclosure there you go. So just above and to the right of the dumpster enclosure is the fire hydrant, and that's at the terminus of our 8-inch water line. We're going to tap a new connection on the 12-inch line that's out on Route 15 and bring it in. And where that line ends, we're proposing to put a hydrant. The information from the fire chief we just received when the staff notes came out. We made our application last year in August. We've been working with staff and Public Works for this past almost year in order to get to a point where we could come and meet with you folks. There have been multiple changes to the water line based on the Public Works comments. And now here, just as we got the staff notes, is the comment from the fire chief that he'd like to have that hydrant moved somewhere else, and we've already moved it once related to Public Works comments. The reason the hydrant is there is twofold. One is because of the size of that line and the relatively low demand of the triplex unit, we need to have a place at the end of that line to be able to flush that line for health requirements. And so when we move ahead with our state permitting, one of the things we'll need is a permit to construct from the state. And one of the things they're going to be looking for is a way to flush that line. In terms of fire protection, at the right at the sidewalk, at the end of our driveway, there's a fire hydrant right there. So should there be a fire that needs abatement, most likely the fire department would pull into the driveway, connect their pumper, and be able to get to either structure easily. And so there is a fire hydrant right there. It's closer than normal safety standards would require. So we'd really like to leave our fire hydrant where it's shown, because if we move it elsewhere, we'll have issues with our state permitting processes not having a way to flush our line. The second reason is obviously there'll be potential for future development, and when that's in place, we would like to be able to spur from that line, and at that point, the future structures would be well served by that hydrant. Where the dumpster location is now would most likely be a continuation of the road, so the hydrant would be right at the edge of the road. And so, again, two reasons. We would like to leave that hydrant where it is. All right.
Before we move on, I want to just pause there for a quick second and just double check and see if any of the board members have questions about this piece of it. Just we'll kind of take it one by one.
Yep, perfect.
We have a little extra time, so.
Yep, perfect.
Any questions?
No, I mean, I get the explanation, but I think there's probably a reason that Public Works is concerned about it, where it's located.
Public Works wasn't
Works is
concerned,
public-
it's the
Public-
fire.
Public Works is satisfied.
Okay.
We've relocated it,
Thank
in the
you.
way that Public Works wants. Public Works is satisfied.
Oh, I misunderstood that. then.
Now we have another agency within the town telling us to do something different. And we'd prefer not to do that.
Did you
Fi-
mention?
The fire, I meant to say the fire chief, sir, but
Can we see where that other fire
Yeah,
hydrant
that's what I
is
was
that
just
he's talking about?
Yeah.
thank you.
So we have double hydrants within, hundreds of feet of this building. Is really, okay, thank you.
It sits right on the corner of the, where the note says close existing curb cut and remove driveway.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, I walked by that hydrant. I should have remembered it
Yeah.
every
yeah.
day.
Okay,
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
All set? Okay.
thank you.
We'll talk just briefly about wetlands. I think the condition, and it's a general condition, that we need get whatever state or federal permits that we need to construct. We certainly understand that and agree with that requirement. We should talk a little about wetlands and stormwater, but the governor's order was very clear. Instead of field mapped wetlands, the only wetlands for residential impact would be ones that showed up on the state's wetland inventory map. Currently, the only wetlands showing up on that map are way north of us, at the end of the property, and actually not on the property. So that wouldn't impact this project. Now, we know that that is in flux, but if you read through the links that were provided by staff, you'll see that A&R is now working on promulgating new rules, and essentially they're going to reflect for residential development what the governor had proposed, and that is for it to impact a residential use, it has to be on an inventory map, and then the buffer would be reduced to 25 feet. We expect by the end of the month that will be resolved, if not shortly thereafter. But anyway, that we don't think it's going to impact the project, but the overall arching condition that says we need to get whatever permits we need. If for some reason that changes, obviously we would address that. In terms of what staff has mentioned and residents nearby, in the old days, if we were to design this project, we would slope all of our new impervious surface and driveway to a catch basin, connect it to a pipe, and it would run across the road to the nearest ditch, and it would run off the property. In our new age, both the state and the town says that we must infiltrate our stormwater. And not only infiltrate the stormwater, but also remove phosphorus. And the only way to do that is through land uptake. And so issues related that the neighbors may have related to groundwater aren't really because of this project. It's because of the rules that we're dealing with, would say that we have to infiltrate our stormwater and provide phosphorus treatment on site. The amount of rain that's going to fall on the site after this development will be the same as it did before. And because we are not piping it off the site, the amount of water that will collect and infiltrate into the ground will be the same post-construction as pre-construction. There's a slight bump in phosphorus feed because of the new impervious surfaces, but our calculations show about over 90% phosphorus removal. And that was something that Public Works asked us to analyze for this triplex and parking area. So I think that covers the wetlands. Wetlands, we've got a condition, I think, that covers your concerns related to that.
I have a question. So this is all sheet drainage then?
Correct.
So all of the grades for the parking lot and so on are all directing water onto the property, not towards the road.
Correct.
Your comment that it's going to be the same amount of water, but now you've got a lot of impervious surfaces. So where the current area that is the pervious surface is going to now have a parking lot and a building, so you now have less area to absorb the amount of rain. So your comment was a little,
Well, yes and no. For the building, if and it doesn't show on this particular plan, but for the roof of the building, the major portion of the roof of the building, we have an infiltration gallery, right? So that is going to infiltrate right there in the building and will be close to that
So now
same.
where is that infiltration gallery? In the-
It'll run all along the right-hand side of the building that you can see, and then we also have at all the valleys where all the roof crenellations are. There'll also be infiltration galleries at the corners, the interior corners of the building. But the big gallery is going to be on that side where we see the solar panels in that view.
So what's the gallery? I guess that's a new term for me, infiltration gallery.
Imagine, in this case, it's crushed stone, 4 feet wide, 2 feet deep, under the drip edge to provide storage space so that the water can collect and then infiltrate, and that accommodates the infiltration rates of the existing soils. The other piece is where this building is and the parking is a relatively high spot. So in the past, if there was a lot of rain and it was saturated, it would have flowed off to where we're going to naturally flow it off out toward, out past the dumpsters and into that area that's behind the dumpsters. So you're right, we are going to reduce some of that infiltration area, but based on our flow analysis, all of that flow would have gone that way pretty much anyway, to then ultimately infiltrate.
And then you mentioned about phosphorus measurement. So your infiltration galleries have some mechanism for measuring phosphorus, is that?
So the state has a phosphorus removal tool, calculator tool. And you provide information about what your discharge is, and information about the discharge, and this tool will calculate the predicted amount of phosphorus removal. And because in this case, we're going to infiltrate into the ground, that has good phosphorus uptake, and so that's why we're in the plus 90%. And that's all in a very comprehensive stormwater study that we prepared for the Public Works Department at their request.
So do you see, like, and again, we're just ruling on this, but for future development, would there be a more intense stormwater management system probably with retention areas, et cetera,
Yes,
and so on?
definitely. Once, right now, and we'll get to this in the conditions, there's a condition that says that we'll need a CGP permit and an operational stormwater permit. Neither of those things are true. We aren't going to disturb more than an acre of area for our construction, so the CGP permit, construction general permit, which is a permit for disturbance during construction, it will not be required because we're under an acre, and state operational stormwater permit will not be required because our total impervious area is under an acre. I think we are at just under 7% total impervious area for this whole site right now. For future development, to answer your question, once we got up into the range where we were getting into that 1 acre plus, now we're into operational stormwater permit, and there would be bigger structural elements to deal with the stormwater.
So along the same line of information, I guess, is this built on a slab or is it full basement?
Slab.
Slab, okay, because the point of the question being that if there were sump pumps involved, where would they be discharged, et cetera, but presumably a slab construction would be less intense. Because there has been, it appears there's some questions about water in the area, let's put it that way.
Yeah, and that's certainly understood, and again, we're working with the regulations that we have to address and meet, so.
Another question regarding the permit for the new curb cut. Does the permit require the old curb cut to be closed?
It does, and it has been, so.
I mean, it's so it shows on your print to close it and so on.
Yes.
So
Yes.
has the old curb cut has been closed then at
Yes.
this point? Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
We all set? Anybody else questions about this at the moment?
No, I had a question about the basement. Thank you, Hebe.
Nick?
No, good.
Stephanie?
No.
Okay.
All
Continue
right.
on if you would.
So now I'm looking at page 8 of 19. I'm at line 224, and this relates to the street tree spacing. Staff had mentioned that no species were shown. Actually, within the regulations of the town, street tree spacing, or street, street tree species are to be selected by the planning commission. And so we have not shown species because the rules say that the town picks the species, not the applicant. Now, let's talk a little bit about the street trees. There are several reasons why we believe that the street trees, at least along Route 15, should not be a requirement of the application. And I outlined that in a memo to staff in April 23rd of this year. And let me just briefly refer to that.
And do you want to pull up slide 8 of their? That shows the street trees. Yeah, that shows the street trees.
Yeah, there's an overall plan that will show the street trees and the proposed landscaping around the building. Yep, there you go. So, as I had mentioned in my response to the staff direction to show street trees, and you'll see all of the red vegetation and the screening shrubbery, it shows in the key that these are locations as proposed by staff. And my memo says we'll show those so that we may get to a point so we can have this conversation with you all. So the first part is the requirements of the town are the street trees must be in the road right of way. This road right of way belongs to V-Trans. They will not allow us to plant trees within their right of way. This is within their clear zone. They would not permit trees to be planted in the right of way. The bigger issue, even if they would allow, is there are overhead utilities all along the side of the road. And where the trees are planted are essentially within the conductor zones of the trees. And our utility folks, Green Mountain Power, will limb those trees back to stay away from their conductors. And you can actually see that in the existing house. There's a tree that sits back a little farther than these trees, and Green Mountain Power has carved essentially a big C right out of that tree. And so we think between V-Trans and Green Mountain Power, street trees along Route 15 in the right-of-way, probably not a good idea. The thing that the town would be concerned with is you have a water line that runs all along the side of the road. If street trees are planted in there, future access for repair and maintenance would be difficult, and you would just end up taking the trees. So the town has utilities that you probably want to protect and not plant trees over. And then on the other end of the project, we actually have not only the water line, but Vermont Gas has a gas line along Route 15. So putting those kind of problematic issues aside, because the site, as you can see, most of the undeveloped site is there along that area. And as you can observe, Mr. Lyon is very supportive of solar development. And the idea of planting those trees and not knowing where the future buildings would go that might have solar panels, do we plant the trees, they grow, they cast shade, and now where future buildings that might have solar panels to help ameliorate energy needs would be blocked. So that's an additional reason why we're requesting that we not plant street trees along Route 15.
Okay.
All right.
Question staff about that or not staff, excuse me, board, regarding the trees at this point. Sharon, any questions about?
No, I get the argument against the placement. It's just a shame that will just be an empty space there, and it's a very wet area, and the trees would help take up some of that moisture.
Yeah, can I just make a note for the planning commission to look into that? Because if Essex doesn't have jurisdiction over Route 15 and its right-of-ways, then that should be reflected
Yeah, we should know
in,
that.
Yep.
in the zoning regulations, that the street trees are exempt from these areas because we don't have jurisdiction there, and the
Right.
state can override that. So if that is accurate, that should be reflected.
One of the things that we would suggest is that the time to consider the trees and substantial landscaping would be in the next phases when the building locations are known. There is a discussion about the trees being 5 feet behind the right-of-way line. Even in this case, the other issues I mentioned are still in play, and in some case, it's worse for some of the issues. But anyway, the time it would be a shame to plant the trees, let them grow, and let's say that the future development occurs 10 or 15 years from now when the trees are really mature, and then it turns out they need to be cut or removed to make the next phase work. So permanent trees like this, I think, probably are better planned for when a little more is known about how the site would be developed.
Yeah, I mean, in this case, the trees are shown 5 feet away from the state's right of way. So the regulations for street trees indicates that they should either be in the public right of way or not more than 5 feet inside the front property line at the discretion of the Planning Commission, which now would be at the discretion of the DRB. So, and in this particular case, there are some overhead power lines along the whole road. There are overhead power lines that trees have grown up in. These trees wouldn't have to be tall trees. They could be shorter trees. The ones on further to the right, where they're set back further, that's to move them away from the underground utilities that are over there. Certainly the DRB has waived street tree requirements before. If you feel like street trees aren't required to create a streetscape for this particular property here. I mean, all the properties along Route 15 have the overhead power lines on that side of the road, and the other properties have street trees. But it's at your discretion to pick what you think is appropriate. I did think it was important to at least show where trees could hypothetically go, since that's one of the requirements in our zoning regulations.
One additional question. Why do we care about them all the way down here? From my perspective, currently, this project is only developing on the upper end where that house is currently. They're not even touching the property line down below. So I could probably get behind more screening up where they're putting the new building, but where it is now, it's undisturbed. They're not developing that at this point. Now, if they do go and develop that, then I would say vegetation down that way would be taken into consideration. I just think that we're asking for more than what they're developing, so I could get behind the 3 trees closer to the buildings as a screening purpose. And I do think there should be some sort of vegetation in there along there. I can get behind that, but I think I just think further down where they're not even disturbing that property is this isn't the time for that.
Yeah, I guess my rationale for that is if there's a site plan or a site plan amendment, I'm looking at the whole site plan, not just the part where they're doing work. So that was the rationale for looking at that whole frontage along there.
Because they
was
could
where I
come
was
back
coming
with
from.
just an amendment to put in all those other buildings that are proposed in the
Right, but if
future.
they come back with an amendment to put in any other buildings, there's going to be additional requirements that go along with that.
And we could say you need
to.
to now put in
Yeah.
the trees that are down there because you're now disturbing that part of the property. I mean, they would have to come back anyway, and we would have the ability to put those conditions in that, okay, now you're making a site plan amendment, you're developing more portions of your land. Now these are going to be part of the process too. So I'm just trying to think about a compromise that we can come to, so that both applicant and the town are satisfied and are getting what they need. And as far as it being wet and stormwater runoff, to me, having the vegetation closer up to the disturbed developed part of the property makes more sense at this time.
The urban forester who provided the recommendations did propose kind of an alternate approach on page 10, beginning on line 282, where he talked about, instead of a row of street trees, to look at some groupings, some more informal groupings of trees, possibly even set back slightly further from the roadway, that would provide kind of a different look along the road, where you would still get some sense of a beautification along the road there, and a little bit more of a sense of like a streetscape feel, but without it having such a regular street tree spacing, and something that was more of an informal approach was what he was proposing.
With the taller trees a little further back so they won't
Right.
interfere with the lines.
Yep.
Or just not plant tall trees, plant dwarf trees.
Yeah, I mean, trees can be any height you want them to be. I mean, I think a benefit of having shorter trees is, the crown is down lower, so it's easier to see as a pedestrian walking past it, and it, in some cases, provides better screening too, if everything's just down a little bit lower. What's that?
And less maintenance.
I mean, whoever's going to be living on that end unit, I mean, if I were them, I'd want some screening trees there so people through 15 can't be looking at my window.
It may be helpful if there's another landscaping plan prior to this one, Kent, that focuses on the area that we're actually developing. And you can see the plantings that are proposed around the building, very dense, and there are screening trees near the building that have been proposed. You can see the list of plants that's there at the landscape table at the bottom. And so the vegetation around the building is very dense. The vegetation at the end of the building that faces Route 15 is also fairly dense in terms of providing screening for that end of the building and privacy, as you mentioned. So I think it's just helpful to look at this kind of close-up view to see what we're doing for landscaping around the building. And a lot of this landscaping is very similar to some of the landscaping that you've approved in previous projects. We looked at previous files and the types of landscaping that you've approved in the past, and we tried to duplicate and mirror that as much as possible. And I'd also say, again, the forester's comments, we received them with the staff notes, just recently. So this hasn't been this part, clustered planting, really hasn't been a conversation we've had with staff. First time we saw it was with the staff notes.
Nick or Hubie, questions on
Yeah,
this?
well, I'd comment that I tend to agree with Stephanie that the need for trees way down to the other end of the project, because there are future plans for the rest of the area. I don't think they're needed down there, but I do like the idea of the lower trees, the grouping that that has been shown here on line 282 and so on. I'm still kind of amazed that he's proposed a white pine. Why anybody wants to plant a white pine is beyond me, okay? Particularly a solitary white pine, because they get stung and they get misshapen.
And pine needles?
And they get
Well-
struck by lightning like mine did last
Well,
night.
they get stung by a weevil and they get misshapen, and they're an awful tree. Anyway, that's
I like
my
them.
opinion. But I do like the idea of grouping of smaller, lower trees. I think that can provide some screening, but again, only on this upper end, where the
Where the
action
development's
is.
going.
There's also, you had the recommendation about a line of plantings along the backside of the units and so on. And wonder what your comments are about that.
Before we go to those, in terms of plantings like smaller trees at that Route 15 end of the building, what we're proposing right now is a lilac, a Japanese boxwood, and I think we've got spirea in there on the corner also in terms of larger, denser types of woody vegetation. So in terms of the comment to plant trees along the backside of the building, our preference is not to do that. The good solar aspect on this building would be along that side. And so the idea of planting trees that potentially would block solar access to that roof face is not one that we're keen on.
So you say considering, you might consider solar panels on the back of that building,
Definitely.
and plantings would inhibit that.
It doesn't make the building hot. I'm not familiar with like putting the solar panels on the back won't make the,
Not on the back of the building, but on the back roof.
Be on the roof.
It's on the roof, on
Okay.
the back of the roof,
Yeah.
and if you put
I was
trees up,
confused by
it's gonna
that.
come over and shade it, and then it effectively
know.
makes those solar panels not worth it.
Yeah, which is why we put all our
That kinda makes
all our
I have that
vegetation on
problem.
the other side of the building.
Yep.
okay, thank you.
Okay. We all set, up to date there?
Up to date there,
All right, thank you.
right, Nick?
Ditto.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead. Next we get into the water supply and sewage disposal. So this is Public Works essentially generated comments. Condition of approval must adhere to appropriate, we're okay there. Documentation, yeah. So as part of our application, the engineering firm that the town uses to model the water system was hired at Mr. Lyon's expense to model this future water line. And when they modeled it, they also modeled it with the maximum build-out growth. So the water line that you see here has been modeled and approved for not only this project, but the maximum build-out that would be allowed currently under the rules. So that's a good thing to know. Item number 3 is kind of an interesting piece here. When Essex Sewer was built, when sanitary sewer was brought to the town of Essex in 1982, as I mentioned, there used to be a sewage treatment plant actually behind this property that served the Flanders development. At the time that the sewer was brought in, that parcel was turned over to the town. The old sewage treatment plant was removed and a pump station was installed. And so all of the collection that was previously, that went to that treatment plant went to the pump station, plus a major part of Route 15 that flows to that pump station, then ultimately back out to discharge and then flow to the Four Corners, Alderbrook pump station, and ultimately gets to the sewage treatment plant in Essex Junction. In order to build that, an easement was required across the then Dawson property. And the Dawsons granted a 20-foot wide easement to allow the sanitary sewer, which included the gravity sewer and the force main, to be installed. When our surveyors did the boundary plat that was done well before we did the site plan, they identified where that 20-foot easement was based on the record drawings that are referenced in the Dawson deed. Part of the deed says that the 20-foot right-of-way will be centered on the project as built. Well, at the time we did the survey, the manhole, that there are 2 manholes out there, neither were visible or findable at that time, and so the easement was shown where it was shown on the record drawings, because that was the best reference available. Once we did the site plan, because we planned to actually connect to one of those manholes with our new sanitary sewer, we had to locate it. And when we located it, we identified that it was outside of the 20-foot right-of-way that we had shown. And so Public Works said, look, you need to modify the plat to show this easement over the sewer line. Well, at that point, all it was known was one of the manholes. The second manhole has not been found. And so what we said to the Public Works Department was, we're happy to revise the plat if you would expose that second manhole and give us the record drawings of the new force main. So when we show that new 20-foot easement on the revised plat, not only the gravity sewer, but also the new force main, which is now on the other side of the sewer line than the original force main, all fall within that final 20-foot easement. And so back in, I think, January, we requested record drawings, and as soon as we can get record drawings from Public Works, we understand that record drawings have still not been prepared for the work that was done, but when they are made available, we're very happy to revise the plat to ensure that all of the sewer components end up in the 20-foot right-of-way as deeded by the Dawsons.
So you mean it wasn't built as drawn? Just kidding.
Well, it was not built as drawn, and here you can actually see what 20-foot easement is right here. And originally that manhole was supposed to fall right there. And there's another manhole that was supposed to fall here, which it doesn't look like it did. It looks like it maybe had fallen over here because they were running the force main on this side of the sewer line. So the gravity sewer runs down and out and across. So I think part of it was maybe to keep that manhole tucked in as close to the property line as possible. But again, we're very happy to revise the plat.
Yeah.
We just need to know where your components are so we make sure that they all end up in the 20-foot easement now and forever. Okay.
Can I just ask a question about that? So on condition 3A, which begins on line 513, when it says the location of the, when Public Works is recommending this as a condition of approval, when it says the location of the existing sewer manhole and a 20-foot sewer easement on sheet S1 may be incorrect. The applicant's engineer shall confirm the plans are correct or shall revise the plans as necessary.
And
Is there anything you would want changed to that, or is that
we're
okay like that?
with the caveat that the town provides the record drawings. If it was added here that applicant engineer shall confirm the plans are correct or shall revise the plans as shown on the record drawings prepared by the town for the new sewer installation.
As opposed to as necessary.
Yeah. That would cover, that would get us there. All right. This ends up as a condition. I'm looking at line 355. So originally, the first comments that we got from the Public Works Department was that the applicant must turn over the water line and must turn over the sewer line to the town of Essex. And we said, look, and along with that is a 20-foot easement, permanent easement for the water line and the sewer line that would serve this project. We said, okay, look, we're happy to talk to you about turning these utilities over to the town in the future once the next phase of development is known or that multiple phases of development are known. But at this point, we don't really want to be encumbering the property with 20-foot wide swaths of permanent easements where we might want to move a utility or move things around, which we couldn't do if we had granted those easements. So the next comments actually from the Public Works Department were then, we will never take those lines. We will not take those lines. We don't want them. You can't give them to us ever. So as a part of that, they've said that, and this is again 355, for the sewer infrastructure, it's going to be a private system. And one of the things that Public Works is requesting is an operations and maintenance manual for a gravity sanitary sewer line, which is one manhole and some 8-inch pipe that connects to the existing line. An operations and maintenance manual, an annual inspection, and an annual report of the operations of the sewer extension. We think this is kind of overkill for one manhole and one pipeline. But we requested from Public Works, we said, look, if you want us to create an O&M manual and an emergency response plan for our single manhole and our short stretch of sanitary sewer gravity line, we would like a copy of the town's emergency management manual and operations and maintenance that covers the pump station that we're actually flowing to, so we're sure that our plan dovetails with their plan. We could not get that from the town. What we were given was a link to another plan prepared by somebody else for another development somewhere else. And we're thinking, if this is an emergency management plan, really we need to know what happens. The critical piece is what happens at the pump station. The gravity lines are the gravity lines. But knowing what their plan is for the pump station, how they're going to deal with that, would help us craft something that would dovetail with what the town is doing. And so with the requirement, one, we think it's overkill. But if you feel like we should provide this level of detail and an annual inspection of an existing gravity sewer line, we'd be happy to do that. But we really want the condition to say that the town will provide us with a copy of their plan so we can make sure that they mesh. So that relates to number 5 on line 355 on page 11. Yeah, and 373, April 26, applicant's engineer requested a copy of an example O&M manual. Actually, the proper text there is a copy of the O&M manual, the town's O&M manual, not just an example. All right.
And you were asking for that specifically of the pump station?
Well, so the town has prepared, apparently, I haven't seen it, we've requested it, operations and maintenance and spill management plan for the entire sewer system for the town of Essex. And I'm sure it's broken up into flow zones because as it relates to the different pump stations. Some of the pump stations have on board, on-site emergency generators. Some are fed by portable emergency generators. So I'm sure it's broken down into sections. We just want the section that relates to the Heritage pump station.
What's their reason for not providing that to you, do you know?
I do not know. So we've requested several things in response to comments. So the record drawings for the sewer, the operation and maintenance and spill prevention plan, and a couple other things, and we have not received that.
Well, could it be, for me, of course, they just did the work here last year where they put in the new force main and so on, and are they're still finalizing the as-built and so on, maybe? I'm just guessing.
Yeah, it's possible because of the as-built, and they would want to include that plan in their plan manual. But the force main operation probably hasn't changed. The old force main was in poor condition. It was replaced by a new force main. I don't know that there were upgrades to the pump station too, but if there were, then that would make sense that they were working on that. But they didn't say, they just said, here, go look at somebody else's plan that is somewhere else totally. All right.
Well, we're right there because we're talking about Public Works as far as the water is concerned. The same kind of issue there in that they were initially wanting to own it and then now they don't want to own it. In that regard, how does that work? I guess I'm curious. When this water line is installed, because it's connected to the town water system and so on, they've had requirements to want to inspect it and so on and so on. So they're going to inspect the whole shoot match that's going to be on private property and owned by the developer. So all of the materials and so on are going to have to meet their specifications, yada, yada, yada. So who pays the bills for the water and the sewer? It's going to, these are 3 units. So
So the landlord, the owner, will pay for the water use and the sewer use, whatever fees are related to the water meter flow use.
so the meters on each one of these units is going to be owned by the town,
Correct.
even though it's going to be connected to the water line, it's going to be privately owned.
Which happens
All the time.
fairly regularly.
Yeah.
And
Water is the town's.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know, but I mean, it just,
ultimately, so, and you'll see this in the conditions, and there's a little modification we're going to want to make to that, one of the conditions. But ultimately, the town has said you have to build the system in accordance with our standards, and we're okay with that. We have to have a representative there while you're building the water line. You are going to have to certify the water line, and if we need to do anything in the future about that with that water line that costs us anything, you're going to pay for it. So that's all part of the conditions of based on the conditions that the Public Works Department have suggested. In reality, if for some reason that water line failed in a big way and no one was attending to it, there's a valve on Route 15 that would be shut off, and the town could say, until you fix this problem, we are not providing water into your service because it has a potential impact, negative impact on ours. And so, again, this is a continuation of an existing distribution system, which is fairly common, and Public Works has created a network of information to protect the town in the case that the town now will not take it over. But again, for the record, happy to talk to the town about taking it over later and granting an easement later. Just to encumber it now is a significant amount of area that would limit future development. So,
yep, understood.
all right. So there's some fee calculations here. We're certainly okay with that. They finally have been corrected. There were some, Public Works had made some errors here, and that's been corrected, so we're all good with that now. I point out this line because we'll come to this later. 434, as previously discussed with the applicant and the applicant's engineer, while the applicant is not required to obtain a state stormwater permit, and then it goes on, any total existing proposed impervious under falls under the jurisdiction. So here they are recognizing that this isn't required. There is actually a condition that we'll look at later that says that it is required, and so we'll want to strike that, but we'll get to that. I won't jump ahead. Yeah, and so the section of 443 through 447, again, it talks about the phosphorus calculations and that staff has no concerns with the submitted documentation. Again, we're showing no runoff from the site. We're showing everything is going to infiltrate. And now on top of this, the town, the staff would like, Public Works would like us to do soil testing and soil analysis to back that information up. Again, if this was a bigger development and bigger runoff amounts, I could understand this a little bit. But the numbers in the reports that we use are very conservative, and the methodology that we use is very conservative. And to go out and do soil testing and future analysis, we think is more than what is necessary to have confidence that we're going to keep our flow on site, especially given the topography at the site, and that all of our flow flows away from our neighbors and away from Route 15.
I have 2 questions about that.
Okay.
First off, the soil testing and so those borings would be helpful long-term for the future plans anyway, right? It's not going to expire.
No, but the testing would be done really immediately next to the building. So there's two essentially dispersal areas that we're talking about. The infiltration gallery that'll be right behind the building, this 4-foot wide, 2-foot deep stone trench. So there'd be a test there, and then there would be a test out beyond the dumpster location, where we would anticipate the remainder of the water from the parking lot to flow and to be dissipated.
Right.
It doesn't go away, but it most likely won't be in areas that we would be looking at in the future for stormwater. And the future stormwater elements are probably going to look very different because we'll have higher flows. We'll have
There'll be a whole different design.
yeah, well, more structural design.
Then the second question I have on this is that this is a known area to have water issues, obviously. So you can understand where Parks and Public Works and the board, myself anyway, at least some concerns about ensuring that we don't have continual issues with water runoff in this area. And I only bring that up because it's a topic and it's something that we want to make sure that we're considering. So understanding that you have designs there to make sure that that doesn't occur, but the soil information that you're getting is essentially internet-based, right?
Well, it's based on soil conservation survey data, which is very good. I mean, it's very accurate in terms of location and soil type. And again, the rates that they provide are very conservative. If you look at like septic system suitability, like the best you can get is maybe, even though we know that the soils are more than adequate for septic systems, for example. So they're very much on the limiting end of numbers. And what we find in reality is when we go out and test, the numbers are almost always higher than those predicted. So, I mean, can we do that? Certainly we can. In the future, again, other stormwater is going to be more structural. The water issues out there, I mean, looking at a big picture and looking at future town planning, maybe that in certain areas, under drainage and lowering of water table would be an improvement and something to be considered in the town standards versus saying you must infiltrate. So there's some definitely ways of solving some of the issues that are out there for some of our neighbors. But right now, under the state rules and stormwater and wetland, we actually can't assist our neighbors.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying.
Okay. We talked about the wetlands. We talked about stormwater. Comments from public. Okay. So I'm now on page 15 of 19, so we're almost to the conditions of approval. And this relates to, again, the Parks and Recreation request for a continuous 20-foot non-motorized recreation easement from Center Road extending along the western and northern property lines. Again, new news for us, and there's a diagram that's actually shown on 16 of 19, and it might be helpful, Ken, if we can put that up on the screen.
Yep.
There we go.
That comes up okay there.
Yeah, that'll work. So there are a couple of reasons we'd like this not to be a condition of approval. One is that they're showing this 20-foot easement actually on some of our neighbors' property, which we obviously don't have the authority to grant. The next is that 20-foot easement, as you can see, especially knowing now where that one sewer manhole is outside of the easement, would be over your existing sanitary sewer and force main. You'd be building pathway on top of your infrastructure. And we've had guidance from your Public Works Department that they prefer not to have infrastructure under walk and pathways. The other piece is that 20 feet is actually into the solar panels. Putting a path past the solar panels there would not be probably a good idea either. But one of the bigger reasons is that connection as it follows, and if we went to probably the easiest place to see this is Kent, if you go to the cover sheet of the plans. And the image on the right of that sheet, yeah, there you go. If you zoom out a little bit, we'll be able to see. And what's being proposed is for the path, start at Route 15, run up, eliminate the easement. Along this. That border is private property. And again, there's really no connection out that way. It's the open land of the adjacent condominium complex. And if we look at the comments, so and now I'm referring to lines 487 through 492. And in summary, what this says is if there's a path shown in the town plan of record or on the Town of Essex Village or of Essex Junction, Town of Essex and Village of Essex Junction bicycle and pedestrian plan, it shall be incorporated into the design, which makes sense. If there's in that big overview, if there's plans of connection, we should be thinking about installing those. This parcel has no such pathways shown in either of those documents. And I've got them here tonight if you want to look at the plans, but neither bicycle nor pedestrian accommodations are projected to cross this parcel under the two plans that are referenced that give you the authority to ask the developer to grant an easement. So we don't think the authority is there, plus we don't think that it's a reasonable route to have a terminus that is onto another piece of private property that's essentially been developed. All right. Questions? All good there? All right, so.
I mean, I think that's a great point that's raised, and I think we'll have to, there's some clarification that's needed for us, I think.
Yep.
On the map that's on page 16 of 19, it shows that there is a trail that is infrared imagery, 2018 infrared imagery. So does that trail exist in your opinion, or is that?
There may be a path through the woods. There's certainly paths from the condominium complex that lead to the walk network in the complex adjacent to us, and there could be paths through the trees, but again, where that terminates, if there is a mapped wetland out there, that's where it is. So you'd be trying to extend that path into a mapped wetland. Again, we just there is, in the reference documents, there are no paths, pedestrian or bicycles shown on this property or nearby. So we don't think the authority for this request exists. We're down to the wire now, so. I don't have air conditioning at home, so I'm not in a hurry to leave tonight. I'm sorry, I'm probably dragging my feet a little more than.
Sharon, do you have any questions about this?
No, It's an old rendering of that, right? There's like a lake over there on the right now. But no questions.
All right. QB?
It says there on line 483, says, 42, says, this is in close alignment with the recently adopted active transportation plan recommendation of a shared use path on the north side of Route 15. So it's like in close alignment, that could mean.
Well, let's look at that from two different ways. One is the active transportation plan was adopted in April of 2026 after we filed our application with the town. And if you look at the active transportation plan, there is no pedestrian or bicycle pathway across this property.
Okay, so the idea of close alignment is
Kind of nearby.
within the town.
And there are nearby. Route 15 is identified, Towers Road is identified, Old Stage is identified, but across this particular parcel, not. So,
Let's make a rail trail.
interesting you should say that. The rail line did run through this parcel. There's an old extinguished easement that shows actually on the boundary plat for the old rail line. Now, there is in the ETC documentation a whole line of residential structures and a path or roadway even maybe that goes through in the ETC. But again, that's not referenced in these rules as a regulatory tool to require the pathway.
So all of the old railroad easements were all quitclaimed back to the adjacent property owners.
Thrown
correct?
up.
There was never anything retained.
Right. And that varies. It all depends.
Yeah.
And there were places where the railroad actually occupied but didn't have actual easements for. We've seen that also. They've just occupied.
Yeah.
All right, into conditions. So, item one, obviously, we're okay with that. Number two, this is the,
1 second.
Shouldn't we go to public comment before we
Yeah,
get
I believe so.
into,
Yeah.
oh, sure.
Because we're not.
We're not. I appreciate where you're going because I like efficiency, but I also think we've gone through the report, your comments. Before we get into that nitty gritty, we should hear from anybody in the public that may want to speak.
And at some point, whenever you want me to go back and talk about any of these topics, let me know.
Great, thank you. So now we'll have an opportunity for anyone in the public. I know that we have a couple in the room that have absolutely no desire whatsoever to speak to us, is my understanding. But we do have some perhaps online, so this is the time. I do see a hand up. Let me go to my correct view so I can make sure I have. I see a hand by Ms. Zaloom. Go ahead and lower your hand, turn your mic on, turn your camera on.
Can you hear me, Chair?
Gotcha.
Yeah. I don't think I could turn my camera on, unfortunately, so sorry for that.
Okay.
Just a couple questions. So Lorraine Zaloom, 74 Center Road. I appreciate the review by Mr. Hamlin. I was impressed by the detail of the site plans. It was good to see. Nice looking building. Certainly it's in a high density zone. Don't have any issue where that things are being built there. I think that we need to build there. But a few questions and concerns given the One Cana Lane build in my experience, and just needing to know that we have guardrails. I get a little frustrated that there's some open questions, for example, like the fire hydrant, and that the fire department isn't here, so that we could ask him questions at the same time and kind of button up, because then it feels like it's not a complete application. I would like to hear, it would be nice to know that that there was a discussion between the developer and the fire department and came with an agreement before the DRB review, because, for example, one of the owners, 3 of Mr. Lyon's children are the owners of this property, and one of the owners is the owner of Cana Lane next door, and he has yet, per our staff, to have met the condition for increasing and widening the fire lane between the canopy and the build, which you all approved when he asked for those added apartment builds on the top. So I have lost faith in our oversight. And I feel like unfortunately, you're the intersection. And so when we have open questions like this that are very important to me, a fire hydrant's pretty important, it's really frustrating that we can't have that addressed before we have this hearing. Because to me, it's inefficient and a lot of wasted time. So I'd like to hear that the fire department agrees to that before this gets approved. And not just as a condition of approval for later, because those conditions that you already approved for there's a number of conditions still open, including street trees, and the street trees have not yet been planted. There was gravel that was supposed to be put in that has not been put in. And so I've just lost faith in the system and the oversight. As for the street trees, I'm confused about that because when Cana Lane also is on, who is also one of the owners of this property, is right on Route 15, and there's 4 street trees approved to be planted there. So I'm not sure why that's any different for the abutting property. I could see maybe the argument for, further down, but I really do appreciate that the staff wants to help not only beautify Route 15, which is our main drag and kind of branding for our town, but also that trees are functional for reducing stormwater, for helping cool the temperatures. We know how hot it was today and yesterday. And it serves a lot more functions, just beautification. Street trees also reduce traffic speeds per studies. And this is a very high, it's a high crash area. And we keep adding more and more cars going out into the road. Even more will be added now. So street trees also function to reduce speeds of cars. As for the wetlands, and the other thing about the street trees, Chelsea, I don't know if you guys notice when you're driving along 15, the Chelsea Road now, because of another build a little bit further up, is now more and more exposed to 15 as well. So Chelsea is also losing privacy from Route 15. So it's another concern for our neighbors. As for the wetlands, we did have a back and forth, and I did speak with Tina Heath, who is our wetlands ecologist for our district, A&R District 4. And she sent Kent an email saying that a delineation is required for this application. So I'm not sure how the engineer knows that EO from the governor is only a month away. I would like to see, because of our experience, I really want to see a delineation, as well as the borings, because it is site specific and that's on hydric soil. And it's been the hydric soil that's been the bane of our experience. I'm not anti-development. I would like to see these built, but I would like to have my property further protected. Since those trees were cut and that 0.32 was under half an acre, which affected the jurisdiction of the state, but since those pines were all removed next door, as you guys can see from the pictures, we're flooded. And our basement is flooded year round now. And that's painful to us. It's added costs. We have to do $20,000, $30,000 worth of work. And the stormwater wasn't adequately taken care of in terms of the impacts on our land. I do appreciate Mr. Hamlin's infiltration trench system. I think that's great. I do think that it is probably adequate. But now what's happened because of the clear cutting of those pines, the wetlands, in my view, because new wetland plants have popped up, and in that 0.32 acres where the pines are gone, that is covered now in cattails. And it is really connected to ours, except that they've now added on One Cana Lane a kind of a berm with the property line trees. That in a way, I guess you could say it's visually disconnected, but really it's a part of the bigger wetlands. And it is class 2. So I really, before you approve this, I want to see a wetlands delineation because I've lost faith in the oversight. I've lost faith that our staff will make sure it's done in a timely manner before the build happens. And then as far as for the easement, I'm kind of surprised that it's a surprise because when we did pass the ETC next plan, in the plan was what we approved is to have the old railroad bed be a connecting bike and walkway path, which runs through our yard as well, by the way. I know there's no easement there, as there probably have been quit claims, but that was something that the town did vote on and work on. We did spend a lot of money on that. And I think it would be great to respect that, because I think also the people that live on the property, the grandchildren, I think it would be helpful to them, because that's a way they don't have to get in their car, and it would help connect us all so you can get in your bikes and go back and forth, certainly as we build out our town plan into E and into double E too, because people do use the path next to the, close to Sweet Scoops. That is the old railroad bed too. And that was in the plan, was to connect the old railroad bed. We certainly were open to that as landowners as well, even though we weren't consulted. And I did sit behind the 3 owners of this property at those meetings. So they were aware that that was something that was in the ETC Next plan. It was years ago, but and it's the first time I met the Lyons actually, when I was sitting behind them, because I didn't know who they were. So I think it's a lot to throw at you, but I do have a lot of concerns about also the Public Works disagreement about the sewer. To me, that should be kind of buttoned up too before a decision's made, because that also is a pretty big thing. And again, to me, that's an incomplete application. I just would like to see these applications more completed before we come before this, because then each time I feel like I have to come back to protect my land. And again, I would like to see this built. I just want to make sure that it's built in a way that won't further impact and increase the wetlands. Because also for the town, in terms of where we're trying to build across the street. Sterling certainly bought some property across the street too. There was, I can't remember if I included it in your my memo or my to the DRB or to the staff, but the Army Corps of Engineers had done a delineation in October, I think in 2024, and they indicated that the water tables has risen. And that is of great concern to me in terms of impacts on, because each weather event now, certainly as we know from the rain yesterday, it's not that we're getting more rain per year, we're getting more rain per weather event. So those hydrate soils have become more and more problematic in terms of where we build. I think that's all I have for you. I appreciate your time and consideration. Thanks.
Thank you. We have Cheryl Van Epps.
Hi, Cheryl Van Epps, 8 Rustic Drive. I have one comment and 2 questions for the applicant. A comment, on page 7 of the plans, I saw Japanese boxwood. I did a quick search, and I'm sorry I didn't spend time on looking at other species that were listed, but the Japanese boxwood apparently is highly susceptible to the box tree moth, and it's apparently spreading throughout northeastern U.S. It defoliates and kills the tree. So please take that into consideration. 2 quick questions. I was wondering why so many parking spaces next to the triplex. I guess I might have missed part of the conversation. Was that the parking lot is a configuration for future buildings, those parking spaces included there also, or I'm just wondering about that, the reason for so many spaces.
What's your second question, Cheryl?
The last one is the concrete slabs for these buildings are going to be placed on high water tables, wetlands, soils. What engineering measures do you use to prevent frost heaves and from disrupting the concrete slab? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. The first question about the box tree elders, or the first note about the box tree elders, thank you for researching that. We appreciate that. I'm sure that will be, if we move forward with this, then I'm sure that would be a conversation that that staff would have with the applicant about that. The question about the water table and the slab, I imagine that is an engineering question. So I would defer to the engineers as to how they deal with that. It's something that they do on a daily basis. So I would imagine you have measurements that you take to consider that.
Yeah, so even though it's built on a slab, the slab is supported by a perimeter foundation and footings, and all of that support is below the frost level. So that's one way of solving that problem. Another is to actually create a slab that floats. It's a little more problematic, but it can be done that way, and that requires some insulation that's put around the perimeter of the building to prevent frost penetration underneath the slab. So there are multiple ways of solving this issue in terms of high water table, dense soils, and frost active soils.
The moral of the story is you probably don't want to build it so that it has frosty issues.
It's not a good result, no.
Okay.
But isn't that out of our purview?
Yeah.
Like, I just want to make it clear, like, I understand public are interested in these things, but that's out of our purview as the DRB as to how that's done. So I would just ask that we make sure we're asking pertinent questions to what we're here to do. And I know it's interesting to a lot of people, but that's outside of our purview. So I just want to make sure that we're focused on the things that the DRB, because there's a lot here that we still, Lorraine brought up some good things for us to talk about.
Okay, thank you for that. Further questions, Sharon, further questions at this point for applicants?
I have none.
If we were to go to deliberations, would you have enough information to deliberate at this point? Or,
I think I have enough information to deliberate.
Nick, any questions further for the applicant?
The two structures that are on the property right now, is it a house and a garage or two houses?
A house and garage, that's correct.
Okay, is the house elevated compared to the rest of the property in any way?
Topographically, it sits slightly higher than Route 15. If you think about Route 15, the high point along that road is pretty much where our new driveway is going to be, which is why there's no culvert under our new driveway, because the flow splits east and west there. That house sits up a little bit, as I say, higher than Route 15.
Does it have a basement?
So interesting. I don't know. Does the existing house have a basement?
The existing house does have a basement.
Has there been flooding issues
Low
with
one,
this?
it's the old style house.
Has there been flooding issues for this
It
house?
has a sump pump in there,
Hmm.
and so it is damp, for sure. Particularly in the spring. In the summer, dry, but in the spring it would be damp.
Okay. Issues that were brought up was the location of the second fire hydrant, and its proximity to the garbage can area. Is there any opposition to perhaps developing a walking path or some kind of other infrastructure to have access or better access to it?
So one of the things, and Mr. Lyon can speak to this, but there's a very similar situation to this at another of his properties at 32 Center Road, where the water line was extended onto his property. A hydrant is located there. The town actually does maintain that hydrant, but he does all the snow removal and makes sure that that hydrant is clear of snow. His intent would be the same here, is that in all weather that there would be access to that hydrant, just as a matter of protection of his own property. And so this is something that he's doing currently on another property and would do the same for this.
Okay. I think those are my questions right now.
Highly motivated to keep that accessible.
Great.
I'm just going to jump in based off of Nick's question. So when we were talking about the fire hydrant in particular as an issue, and you mentioned that one of the main reasons why you need it to be located where it is because you have to be able to flush out the line. So I'm just wondering, if it's possible to have a flush out valve that's available there, but still moving, and not being an engineer, and but understanding first trying to appease the town's fire chief and make a plan that works for everybody, but also provide an option where you could have a connection later on down if you had a flush out valve that allows you to be able to deal with the line itself, but also still maybe on the other end of that line place a fire hydrant there. And I understand you've made this design a couple of times, but
It's a great question, because can there be a blow off? So it's known as a blow off located there. And what that would consist of is a very heavy concrete pad, large diameter ductile iron pipe, some elbows to diffuse the flow, and valves to operate it. And by the time you build all of that, you'd be able to buy a hydrant. If the system gets expanded in the future, all of that assembly will be useless. It would have to be removed, and a hydrant would be replaced. And so the hydrant serves the current need and also the future need without digging up that utility and redoing it. But could you do that? Yes, you could. And then where would that hydrant go? Most likely it would be on the Route 15 side of the building,
which is near where the other
which
one
is here to the wall from the existing hydrant. So we think it's good where it is, and it solves the more important need right now, which is health impacts to be able to flush that water line.
Thank you. Sorry, didn't mean to jump in there. I just wanted to follow up in the same, so we weren't going back and forth all day. Stephanie?
I think for me, mine's more for staff around this shared use path. When we did our DRB training, if you have two conflicting, ambiguous things, you side with the developer, you side with the property owner. So great, we have this, Essex Town next plan, but if it's not correlating to the regulations, I feel that my hands are tied to enforce it. So I really want to make sure that if we're asking developers to create easements for shared use paths, that it's actually something that we can do based on the zoning regulations have been updated to reflect the town plan, because they have to meet for us to be able to actually enforce a lot of stuff.
I didn't show the ETC Next plan sample in my report. It shows buildings in a different location. It shows a whole different design of the site from what they're proposing. So showing a path that goes sideways across their site
really,
seemed like that. I'm sorry.
The NET Next plan was a vision for what it could have been, but that's not what is realizing. So again, it's a vision of what we'd like to see, but it's not grounded in the regulations and reality at this point. So I'm going back to, what does the zoning regs say? Because we have some conflicting information here. I have, an engineer who I feel came very well prepared is telling me they reviewed the regs, it's not in it, and then we have something else saying something. So I just want to make sure that I know.
And I'd like to just say for the record that what's shown on that ETC plan is not what's being proposed and requested in this route. It's a different route. It's a different location. So that the ETC plan does not mirror what's being requested, what we're being asked to grant.
That's correct. That's not what I'm trying to show here. What I'm trying to convey separately. So this underlying map here. So I guess first stepping back to what the regulations are here. The regulations indicate that the DRB may require provision for pedestrian trails or paths and walkways along waterways and other natural features to connect with similar present or anticipated trails and paths on adjacent properties for use by residents or occupants of the development. In particular, such trails or paths that are shown in the town plan or the town and village bicycle and pedestrian plan, which has subsequently been updated by the active transportation plan. So it's indicating here, in particular, a couple sources of information that you could be drawing on. What I'm showing here is the town's internal planning mapping that is being used to try to develop a coherent trail system in the town. That's the map. This is the mapping that is being used to try to develop something at this point. So this particular map here, so that yellow line, it's a town easement and a proposed trail. That should say proposed trail. It's not actually a trail there. That's that yellow line that goes from Route 15 behind the solar panels through the town's parcel, which is that green, the green color is a town parcel, continues through an easement and then makes additional connections up into the neighborhood. This pink piece back here, the town has a pink piece, is some infrared imagery that they use to identify some existing trails that just already exist. They're not necessarily open to the public, but to try to look at what trails exist and where might there be possibly logical connections in the future. So it's true that there is some kind of thing that has been identified by the town as something of interest to look to. It's not an official trail at this point, but it is something to consider in the future when we're trying to eventually piece different things together. So by having this easement, and I'm not sure if it's really coming out clear here, I am showing it right along the property line, so it's not going on to an adjacent property. This corner here is the edge of the applicant's property. That would allow the town to have a future option of trying to have some connectivity going through there. Perhaps it would never make sense to logically connect. If there's nothing on the other side to connect to, then yes, it would just never be used for anything. So that's where the rationale for this was coming from, and kind of the underlying mapping to try to show the logic. It's not just out of thin air of where it's coming from.
My follow-up to that is that if there are already water main and sewer infrastructure there, I want to know if Public Works actually is saying, no, we don't want shared use paths being built over our water line and sewer easements. To me, that becomes a moot point. We shouldn't even be asking for it if we know that those easements already are there, which I'm assuming they are because we're asking for it in that swath. But I don't know if that's truly how Public Works feels, or it's just, we hear a lot like they don't want.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, trails can go over the top of utilities underneath. I mean, there could be a water line that's underground, and that naturally means nothing should be built on top of it, like trees. But you could still have a path or a gravel road or a walking area.
I just want to make sure that, I mean, from my perspective, I'm hearing what you say is very logical, but what they said to me is very logical. And the person who could tell me if that's actually how they feel is not in the room. So that would be where I'd want more.
Might I make a suggestion? So, and I think you're onto a very good point. So right now, that sewer easement from Route 15 leads to the lands owned by the town, which would lead toward that yellow path that Kent has outlined toward apparently an existing easement that goes onto that private land, that open area for the condominiums. So right now, that easement has been granted for sewer and sewer use. Perhaps the request of the applicant would be to allow that sewer corridor to also be used for a path, and then build the path within your sewer corridor up to where you cross onto the lands owned by the town. And that way, there's no further encumbrance in terms of area to the applicant because that easement already exists. And the only thing that's left to be determined is exactly where it is once the record drawings are completed. And then when that plat is drawn, perhaps that plat could reference that it's sewer and pathway, non-motorized easement. And that would seem to make that
So
easement.
2 birds with 1 stone.
Exactly. So I think that was a good
Yeah,
suggestion.
I think that would be a really good option, so long as you can walk through where the solar panels are. Yeah, I think that would be a good option, because where those red dashed lines are is not necessarily where that sewer easement is. That's an estimated
Yeah,
location.
Well, it's actually, if it came from our plat, this is where it was shown on the original drawing. But we know that the manhole was right here, so this is gonna shift away from the solar panel. So once we know where that area is identified, and the path, I mean, the easement might be 20 feet wide, but the
The
path
path ain't
Right.
gonna be.
6.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So getting that past the solar panels could be functional that way. So anyway, that's just a potential recommendation.
I think also, so since this is a site plan, it's a one-step process, which is a little bit more complicated sometimes when we have an opportunity to bring all the comments together from Public Works and Parks and Rec and everybody, but we're all getting it right now. And all of these seem like manageable issues, but maybe they need a little bit more time and work on them. I think if I had really good direction from the DRB on this is how you would like the landscaping changed, or this is how you would like this changed, then I feel like it could be a condition that I could work with the applicant to do, and I've done that before on other projects, but it needs to be really pretty clear. If it's too open-ended, then it leaves too much of a chance that the applicant and I just aren't going to be on the same page, and now something's been approved that we're kind of stuck in a loop with. So I'm kind of feeling like if there is really clear direction, then that seems like it could work good to condition things. Otherwise, I feel like it might make sense to have a chance to talk with Public Works again, talk with the fire department again. I think the fire hydrant thing isn't going to be that big of a problem. I think that'll be able to be worked out.
Other than the capital letters.
To just right, except for that.
Maybe we can come up with a list
Is
of
to
things.
just like continue this maybe a time so that we can go back through, and now that we've had a chance to work through some of these, tighten it all up and bring it back is kind of how I'm feeling.
I would love to comment about this. So again, we applied almost a year ago. We've gone through 6 rounds of comments with Public Works. The idea that we would then now waive off again to have additional comments, that the comments are just being with us now tonight is not because of the applicant. We've done our due diligence and we've responded each time to all of the comments, including the ones that changed as the target got moved for the applicant. I believe that we can go through the proposed conditions of approval and make some annotations, and you may complete this process this evening, which would be certainly our request. It's been a long time for us to get to a point where we could get in front of you and have this conversation.
Yeah, it's hard for me to know what to say about the Public Works comments, because I do know that you've had a lot of correspondence back and forth with Public Works, and I feel like Public Works, like there are some things that you're feeling like should be different than what Public Works is suggesting in there, and I know you've already gone through a lot of conversations with them. So I guess personally I'm a little stuck with how to change. How to make a recommendation to change anything from what Public Works said already. Okay. For that.
QB, thoughts?
Yeah, well, as I kind of commented before, it's just the whole arrangement with the water line owned by the owner and it's complicated and unnecessarily complicated, it seems to me, but, and then, yeah, there seems to be a little bit of overkill on some of the recommendations from Public Works. I hate to say that in a way because I think they do a great job, but anyway, I understand that they want to know what's going into their system and so on, and have some confidence that there are not going to be problems, and how you get to that point so that they have the information they need on a continuing basis, that things are copacetic, that somebody's not dumping their engine oil into that sewer system or whatever. So, yeah, whether their requirement for this management plan is on an annual basis is too much, I'm not sure.
I think probably the biggest question that I have at this point is that, like, as I started with Sharon and I asked Nick, I got to Nick and I didn't get a chance to ask the question, but like, do you have enough information this evening to make a decision, or is there additional information that you would like to see?
I think I'd like to have a little bit more information.
Okay, fair enough. Stephanie?
Yeah, I feel that some of the stuff with the street trees and the fire hydrant.
The trail too, I'm thinking of.
I don't want to have to sit here and wordsmith a bunch of conditions all night to get it to where everybody feels comfortable that we can actually enforce it when we have a pretty light schedule here for the rest of the summer.
We do.
That they can pretty much get right back in here at the beginning of next month and we could approve this and move it on. I don't think it's our job to design a lot of this stuff. If I hear Dusty in my head, it's not my job to design this. It's our job to give the feedback as to what they need to go back and do to provide it to us. I don't think they're far off. I'm sorry that you have a lot of back and forth with the staff. That's out of our purview. This is the first time we've seen this application, and there just are some things that this isn't far off from my perspective on being an approval, but there are a few things that need to be tweaked up that I just don't think we should be having to condition this much and tweak this much. So I'm with Hubie.
Okay, fair enough. Nick? Do you have enough information to make a decision this evening, or is there more that you'd like to see?
I would have been comfortable moving forward tonight, but it sounds like others aren't.
That's
so
okay.
I'm
That's
okay
not.
with-
We're asking
I'm okay
you.
with that.
So okay, Sharon.
I'd like to see more. I'd like to get that trail easement established, and
Yeah, I think we can go through the idea
the
of what
soil
we wanna
boring
see
thing.
specifically.
I don't think is
that would be-
overkill.
Yeah.
So that, but I think. Do you think maybe we should go through a list of things?
I think we do.
So
I
the
think we should.
applicant doesn't have to come back.
100%. I think, and if it were up to me, which it kind of is, I would say that we should go through. The
Bossy now.
conditions. Yeah, I would just go right through the conditions that we have outlined before us already, and just take a look at each one of those conditions and where we had our questions, and then kind of define what we
Right.
want to see.
Because I don't want this to come back a third time. It's not fair.
Agreed. I 100% agree. So, I mean, the proposed conditional approvals, which is on page 16 of 19 or 133 of 158 in your packet, for those of you following along with full-size packets. Condition 1 was all construction shall be in conformance, yada, yada. I don't think we have a problem with that. Number 2, prior to the issuance of the zoning permit, the applicant shall address concerns raised by the fire department, including applicant shall relocate the fire hydrant to a location acceptable by the fire chief. And now, this is one of those that I think that we probably, if that's all it was, we could have conditioned for it and made sure it got worked out. But
I mean, I want to hear
enough.
from the fire chief.
So do I.
Why is the one on 15 not good enough?
Yep.
I'm sorry, I think he's scapegoated out on that. I'm going to call him out. Why is the one on 15 not good enough? And I really want him to explain it to us
Yep.
why that's a safety hazard, because from my concern, that's not. And I want him to tell us why. Aside from, and stop putting things in capital letters. I don't need you yelling at me in a report.
I agree that I didn't even realize when looking at the plans that there was a fire hydrant.
I didn't
on
either,
Route
but then
15,
when
so-
I see it, it's like, well,
Yeah.
okay, well, you
You've
should
got
have
one on
known it
both
was
ends of the
there.
building now, so yes, we would like that clarified as well.
By the fire chief.
By the fire chief,
the
yes.
fire
We would like that negotiated so that the next time we get this report, it says the fire chief is okay with whatever. So I don't really care where it is, but we want to make sure that the fire chief is good with whatever you come up with. So,
I want to know why it's not okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna go against the
You
fire
call him.
chief. I just think he's being a little ornery, and I think he needs to tell us why it's not okay when there's one that's like 100 feet from the building that they could attach to.
And he may have a reason.
He might have a reason, but I just don't know what it is.
Well, he mentioned snow removal or whatever, but we
we already,
that's-
We-
that's-
we already know
that's-
that's going to get
Yeah.
clear, so.
Yeah. So,
3, prior to the issuance, this is where we get into Public Works, I think. Public Works concerns include location of the existing sewer. We do want to make sure that that got updated staff. So that A reads, applicant's engineer shall confirm the plans are correct or shall revise the plans as shown on records provided by the town.
Yeah, record drawings.
Applicant shall provide the town with operations and maintenance manual, the sanitary sewer spill.
Okay, that's one spot where I had a comment. It's like, town operation and maintenance manual, O&M for the sanitary sewer system with a sanitary sewer spill prevention plan. You know, it's not explicitly saying that this operations maintenance manual,
Sanitary sewer system.
yeah, for the sanitary sewer system with a sanitary sewer spill prevention plan as a part of
Yep.
it.
With, instead of A.
Yeah.
Okay. New fire hydrant shall be yellow. Yep, we got that. So we can make it pink if he wants it. Applicant shall enter into a maintenance agreement with the town of Essex to ensure the new water infrastructure remains in accordance. Yep, that's fine. I don't think there's any question there. E,
What's that like,
all-time
project?
all-time materials costs associated with the maintenance shall be reimbursed to the town. Applicant's aware of that. We've already discussed about in F that that these figures have been adjusted and updated and are correct now. G shall verify the soil type and infiltration rates through soil borings. So this is one that we've had some conversations about. And applicant feels that borings are not necessary for at this time because of what they're doing for mitigation at the moment. We as a board have the right to enforce the idea. So, Sharon?
I probably think that it should be done with considering the soils and water issues that are surrounding the property, but maybe we could have Public Works explain that a little more to us.
Yep. So we should ask for a little bit more in detail for that. Nick?
I would say get it done because there's future development plans that the applicant is not proposing tonight, but it's in the works, sounds like.
Right, despite
So
the
it's going
fact
to
that
be done
the applicant,
sooner or later.
right, despite the fact that the applicant told us that the borings would not have reference to where the actual future development would be, right? It's only for
Right.
this piece, so.
So,
But I am in agreement, I think that the borings will be helpful considering that this is a known issue area. And
Yeah,
so
that's
to
right.
ensure-
And we did receive testimony that it's from online.
Yep.
That this is been a problem in this area, so.
Correct. Yep, so just to ensure that, it may be putting suspenders on a belt, but to doubly ensure that infiltration is not going to be an issue with large storms. Okay. H, for G, we wanted more clarification from Public Works about why, or are we good with just requiring it?
I pretty much support it happening, but I wouldn't mind
Okay.
an explanation because maybe that will make, it more forceful.
You getting that, Kent?
Yeah,
17G.
a reason for it.
Yep, just an explanation, yep. Future development in H, well,
That
yeah, we don't
doesn't-
care about that.
I was gonna say, doesn't
Actually,
that go
We could
without
actually
saying?
kind of strike it.
Actually, yeah, the model that's been done did include
Did include
future
it.
development.
Yep, so it's already included. I, move forward development, yeah, again, if and when,
That would be
we're
part of
aware
that,
yeah,
wouldn't that be
so
part of that application?
that'd be part of that application, so.
Okay.
Just forewarning you.
Yep.
Okay.
Strike it.
Item 4 from Public Works, town's not a part of DigSafe,
That's
that's fine. 5, water infrastructure shall be installed with accordance. I think that nobody has a problem with that.
Actually,
You do.
there is a revision here.
Yep,
AWWA, I'm would recommend that you change that to state requirements. AWW regulations are voluminous, and they aren't necessarily in every single AWWA standard doesn't necessarily follow the Town of Essex specifications. Many do, but it's a huge document. If we say state, we're safe, everybody's going to be happy, but somebody could find that one page on AWWA that we didn't use a stainless steel bolt with a 14 pitch thread, we used a 16 pitch thread, and we didn't meet their standard.
So I would suggest that we just have Public Works okay the fact that it's state, not
State.
AWA.
Yeah, to specify why they're specifying AWWA.
As opposed to state.
As opposed to state,
Yep.
exactly.
6, water infrastructure shall be in accordance with section 512. And testing, do sewer services, I think everybody's okay with that.
Yes.
7, stormwater permit and general construction, that's fine.
No.
No?
No, a state stormwater permit and a general construction permit will be required for this project is not correct.
That's right. It's less
Because
than
it's,
an
because
acre.
it's less than an acre. We can strike 7.
Yep, we are not. And technically, the only people who can determine whether we need a permit or not, those
Is the state.
permits, is the state.
Yep.
The-
Yep, so we'll strike 7. 8,
Don't you still need a general construction permit?
that's from us though,
So we have to leave that in.
Not a,
just
not a,
different.
not the
this
state stormwater.
general construction permit is a state permit for disturbance of soil during construction.
something.
So there's 2 stormwater permits, a CGP and then the operational stormwater permit. And neither of those state permits are triggered by our project.
8, state and federal permits provide copies to the town, I think that's fine. 9, electronic copy, yada, yada, I think that's fine.
10.
10, all utility lines will be underground, thank goodness. 11, all stormwater infrastructure shall be installed in accordance to specifications. 12, discretion of zoning administrator as built plans submitted for, they have to be approved by the Community Development Department before certificate of occupancy.
And all we would ask there is, this is at the discretion of the zoning administrator. Tell us that you want as-built or that you don't want as-built. So this leaves this up to the discretion of the zoning administrator. Just make this, you do want as-built or you don't want as-built. Because today's zoning administrator may not want them, but when we finish construction, another zoning administrator.
Oh, good
Yep.
point.
Good point.
So we'll need to know ahead of time whether we
Can
need
we
to collect the data or
have
not.
Community development, discuss that internally
I think we should.
and have them get back to us on if they want as-built or if they don't.
Yep,
Yeah, I can
so
do that.
mark 12 as a community development discussion.
Yep.
13, no occupancy. I think that's, shall occur until certificate of occupancy inspection is signed off. I think that's fair. 14, issuance of certificates of occupancy for each building. You gotta have the E911 address. I think that's fair. All landscaping shall be guaranteed for the life of the project. I think that's fair.
Could we actually revise that to just say any dead or diseased plantings shall be replaced as soon as seasonally possible? I read this as all landscaping shall be guaranteed for the life of the project. That whatever we plant there today, that individual plant has to be guaranteed for the life of that project.
He's not wrong. People will wordsmith the crap out of it and come
Say my
back
hosta
and
died,
say
so you have to-
they really will. With what I do on a daily basis, they will find that one little nugget.
Yep.
So I
Any
think that all landscaping shall be guaranteed that any dead or diseased planting shall be replaced as soon as feasibly possible.
Yeah, shall be guaranteed and any dead or disease. Yeah, the life of the project piece is the hurdle we're trying to get over.
Yeah.
Wordsmith that for me.
All landscaping shall be guaranteed, and any dead or diseased planting shall be replaced as soon as seasonally possible.
Guaranteed for how long, though?
Yeah, I mean, there's gotta be,
Like, it could be, you know, it dies in
Indefinitely.
a year and they don't have to put any more trees in.
I mean, so long as it's in the same, I mean,
Landscaping includes more than just plants, though.
Mhm.
Ah,
Are we more concerned about,
Maybe just strike that whole sentence, just
street
any
tree? Well,
dead
no,
or
because we do
diseased
want to make sure that like a diseased tree is not just sitting there forever, right?
Well, he was gonna just strike the all landscaping shall be guaranteed and just have a condition, any dead or diseased plantings shall be placed as soon as seasonally possible. And could we say, wordsmith it in a way that it's, you know, in alignment with the approved landscaping plan?
I mean,
That's a phrase that's been used
it has, but it's,
frequently.
but the challenge here is,
frequently,
again,
life of
still,
the project.
any landscaping in the landscaping plan reflects hostas and you know,
It's true.
flowers and stuff like that, so like, you know, we're gonna require that, you know, something that died in a frost is now gonna, you know, have to be replanted immediately, or
So we need to, I mean,
It says as soon as seasonally possible.
seasonally
Yeah,
possible,
I
yeah.
think that's a,
But I think definitely the
That's
trees
fair.
should be.
Yeah, but that's what I mean, is that, do we?
so do we say any
landscaping-
dead or dying tree or shrub? And we don't worry about
Just be streetscape, because-
streetscape? Because what if
Yeah, we also don't want them to, I'm not saying them as you.
we just
just
don't want to
understand-
say like in
understand.
front of
Not
their
accusing.
entryways, I don't want to be dictating what they have for flowers
Right, that's,
as a garden, but we care more about what's going to be facing 15.
and also the privacy stuff around the building too, we want to keep, but yeah. you
but I
wanna
don't
say
care if you
replace
want to
that lily.
replace your hosta with a peony bush. I don't
Yeah,
care.
bunch of roses.
Yeah. So we could work on.
No fault, no remorse.
Not that that would be ever enforced also.
You never know.
oh, man.
Yeah.
You never know.
So let's kick that back to ComDev
Okay.
and have them wordsmith that for us.
Okay.
I would like to see the trees and the privacy bushes and stuff.
That is
That's
part
really-
of the
that's really
thing.
kind of the key.
The key is like, I do like what was presented by the,
Staff.
The urban.
that
urban
other guy
forester
that, the forester guy. I
Oh, yeah,
liked
the forester guy, yeah,
you
yeah.
know, and I do think I'm not a proponent of just saying no street trees. I am one that thinks that the 3 up near the building is where we should focus, but I would like to see more of an agreement between staff and the developer on what that looks like and taking into consideration those recommendations that were provided to
All
us.
landscaping larger than 12 inches tall.
Yeah. I mean, I think we wordsmith that when we have a better
Yes.
understanding of what the landscaping is going to look like when we actually come to approve
Yep.
the.
All right, so we'll leave 15 for ComDev to wordsmith a little bit, and we'll see
Just
that
to get a little bit more feedback from you first, I read this to mean that the landscaping concept that's designed, because we're approving a site plan, that the concept is what's being maintained over time so that it maintains consistency with what our regulations are for the
And let's
planting.
So
wordsmith
the
it
word-
to say
So-
Right,
that.
if
Yeah.
you come up with landscaping concept, shall be guaranteed for the life of the
Right.
project.
So if they want to
You know.
change particular landscaping, they
That's
should
fine, yeah.
have
free reign to do
the
so.
ability to do it
Yeah.
as long as it's still
Free
consistent
reign,
with
but-
the regulation. I'll wordsmith it a bit.
Okay.
Or perhaps something about the street trees remaining. Like-
Yeah, I think street trees, I would agree that, I think we had some conversation about street trees around the current development and maybe not as much of a desire on the, whatever it is, the westerly side.
Right.
So for the time being, because, there may or may not be future development along there. I'm okay with that plan.
Yes.
So how about yourself, Nick?
Sounds good.
Okay.
One other thing, while we're on this subject, there is a part of the regulation that says that the planning commission, now the DRB, shall come up with tree species that are acceptable. And we haven't seen anything like that. And
Yeah.
I guess we should be looking for something like
I
that.
think the DRB will rely on the expertise of the.
Well, what I'm saying is there's supposed to be a recommended planting.
Yep.
Okay, that is available, and we don't have that currently.
Well, we have it in the packet.
You know what I'm saying, on a going forward basis
Yeah.
for any project.
Yep.
So the developer, as a matter of fact, the engineer has brought this up, that the town is supposed to be making the choices about what to plant.
Yep.
Okay? the section of the regulation that says the planning commission shall develop a planting list,
Right.
and we have not seen
Right.
it.
Well, I would suggest that when the town hires a new town arborist,
the
that
town-
that
they come up
that
with
is
the
one of
planning
their-
list,
yeah,
right?
That is one of their duties.
Yep.
Okay.
17.
16 was easy enough because that's just rec fees. 17, prior to the issuance of zoning permit, provide a continuous 20-foot wide non-motorized. So this is one of the areas that we want to have confirmed. Our concept was the possibility of intermingling. It's already there, using the already provided easement for the 20-foot wide path. So we would like confirmation from Public Works if that's acceptable with them, considering that the easement kind of belongs to them.
But not in
Yeah,
that.
and I should try to put in here, similar to that drawing, either that or something similar in there, something that gets that the essence of what we're trying to get to there. But I'll check with Public Works.
Yep.
To get more detail on that.
18, impact fees, no worries with that. 19, issuance of zoning permits, applicant shall submit revised materials, including 2 full-size sets of plans. I think that's easy enough to abide by.
20 is actually a duplicate of number 8.
Yep, it is. No, it's not. 20 is a duplicate of one we struck, which was 7, right?
No, 8.
8.
So
8 is state and federal permits, and
and this
20
is
says
state approvals.
Permits.
state approvals.
all applicable
and supply it to the community development. So we could probably
keep one or the
keep
other.
one or the other. Yep, I would say let's keep 20, and well, it's a town to the prior. Yeah, so keep 20
What?
because it goes to it outlines specifically the department you bring it to.
Well,
Okay.
why can't we just put that into 8?
Well, we could.
I kind of like the wording of 8
Okay.
and just add in and provide it to
Yeah, good idea.
Instead
community development.
yeah, copies 2 instead of town.
Yep.
Town gets replaced with
Community development.
community development. And that's specific.
Yep. Okay. Strike 20.
Got it.
21, accepting conditions. 21 will never get waived.
Exactly.
So, okay. So I think applicant has an idea of what needs to be resolved so that we can come back. I think the board has done a good job in outlining what we need to see. Staff has some marching orders, if you will. Any further discussion on this? I'll make a motion
Wow.
to continue this application until time certain, which, do we feel that next month is acceptable for timing?
No, we won't
Probably
be able
the
to turn
following
it
month,
around
right?
that far.
That would be September 3rd.
Yeah, because we need whatever changes are made. Well, we can keep it a bit more compressed of time than we usually would because we don't have to fully review everything.
Yeah, we have some very pointed things that we just need to iron out. I would like to get them back on as quickly as they're comfortable, but also we'd like to.
Yeah,
Keeping in mind the
we could do
building season.
September.
September 3rd is wide open.
It's September
Yeah,
3rd is.
let's do that. And if for some reason we didn't have the information by then, it can be continued later. But that seems doable. I don't think like August wouldn't be.
No, I think probably September 3rd makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
From our standpoint, the amount of plan revision that'll be required to address these isn't very significant.
Mhm.
It's going to be tune-ups and some labels.
Yep.
We'll turn it around very quickly, so that the real linchpin is getting, I guess, input from
The town.
Public Works.
Yep.
We can say September 3rd, but if the town and everybody's
Town's
good to
ready,
go
come-
for August
come
6th, then we can go August 6th. But if we say September 3rd, we're giving a little bit more runway for everybody, but it could come sooner.
Yep. Doesn't have to come.
It doesn't have,
We'll respond as quickly as we get the information to respond to.
But if you make a motion to September 3rd, that's what we would have to do.
Yeah.
That, because it has to be warned. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if we make the motion to September 3rd, we can't, we're no longer able to say to the next available. So
Has to be time certain.
it has to be a time
Yes.
certain, so.
That would be safe.
yep.
I think September 3rd is probably the ideal runway for staff to ensure that we're not
to ensure them the time that they need in order to turn stuff around. Your side of it probably is a lot easier than their side of having to go through and prove what they need to do, so,
We're gonna know more about the whole wetland thing too.
yes,
Oh,
I agree.
I did have a question about that, which
Yep.
I forgot, Lorraine said something about Tina Heath saying that a wetland delineation was required. I don't know anything about that, so I'd like to,
Yeah, I would like further clarification about the wetlands.
Yeah, I mean, if there's no wetland there,
okay,
then it wouldn't have to be delineated.
okay.
But you'd have to satisfy whatever the state's requirements are. So if there's no wetland, then you don't have to do anything. If there is a wetland, then you have to
So they can
do
just tell,
something.
they can just tell us if there is one or not.
Yeah, whatever the state finds that you would have to do for it.
Okay.
Yeah, and currently the crux of that issue is, and based on the draft regulations, the revisions that A&R is making to the wetland rules, for very specific development, in this case residential development, the way that you identify whether there's a wetland or not on the property relates to the state's mapping. So if it's on the state's map, it's a wetland, you have to stay 25 feet away. That looks like what the proposed rule is going to be, and that mirrors what the governor's executive order, which has been made.
I want to make sure that we're careful that
But right now,
this board
yeah.
has to rule on whatever is currently in place.
That's
So-
correct. That's correct. And so, but by the time we get to this next hearing,
It could be changed.
hopefully, what we're being told right now in terms of what's on the state's website is that by the end of July, this rulemaking process should be wrapped up,
All the more reason to go to September 3rd.
right? And why this is complicated is if we were doing something else there, like your force main project, that's not residential, that has to be mapped on the ground. If it's residential,
No, I get it.
yeah, okay. Anyway, so that's kind of the flux that we're in. We're waiting for that to come out. No matter what, we will get whatever state and federal permits are required before we construct.
Thanks.
All right, so I've made a motion, or I'm making a motion to move this, to continue this to time certain, which is September 3rd's meeting. I would take a second.
Second.
Okay, I made the motion, Stephanie did the second. Any further discussion about this?
Not for me.
All those in favor of continuing this application to September 3rd, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate your time this evening.
Do appreciate the quality of the work and the plans that you've put forth here. So it was.
Good to know. Thank you.
Thanks for your efforts.
Thank you.
Nice seeing you, Peter.
Thanks for not asking the kids anything.
Wait, before you go, you have to sing the fight song.
Yeah, the last time I saw those grandchildren, they were about this tall, and you were taking them trick-or-treating.
Okay. We are now on to other business. So part of our other business would be we're just highlighting the idea that we want to make sure on the next one, the very next, or as soon as humanly possible, that we talk about reviewing board procedures. We would like to schedule on August 6th. One of the first one is ethics policy. This really has to do with like a conversation that we were having before about shooting my mouth off about making sure that how we conduct ourselves outside of the board, and that was a discussion that we wanted to have. So it makes sense, I think, to do it with reviewing the ethics, just to make sure that we're all on the same page. And
You mean all our ethics?
yeah, all our ethics.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to not just one thing, but like how that ties into all our ethics, and just doing a quick review of that. I
Yeah,
think
we
that's-
still, don't we still have that state requirement where we have to do that test every year or whatever?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
which is
we'll
a-
probably. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's.
Yeah, we have to do it annually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I understood, Heavy, that you were going to take it all for us.
Yeah, yeah,
I heard
sure.
you were going to do mine for me.
We're just ethically, we're just going to give you all our usernames and passwords.
Like somebody says, you have to,
So you want to review our procedural policies. And you,
Also, yes, but
and you are suggesting adding that thing that you wrote to them.
No, I think we're just reviewing.
no, we're
our
reviewing the ethics only
policy.
because I felt
Oh.
like the
Only that
statement that I
full
made was really more. It really isn't about a procedural. It's really falls more into the ethics piece of it.
But I think it has to be written for us to follow it. And we have
That's
to vote,
true.
and we have to vote on it.
That's also very
Okay,
true.
that's what I
But
was
when we have an opportunity to review our ethics, we can discuss it.
Okay.
So, and then the other piece was just the process. We have a process that's in place now about how we as a DRB can review the legal opinions that have been offered to us. So next month when we get together, we can kind of talk about what that process is, so we're all aware and what our opportunities are to do that.
Gotcha.
Okay. And then it's not on here as a reading file, but just remember we have that wide open schedule is available to us.
I have some questions about that. I have some, that was concerning to me. I think probably because we've seen so many applications in the last year, it does make me a little nervous to wonder if we're becoming development unfriendly and we just aren't getting as many applications. So just kind of looking at staff,
think
like,
it's 'cause-
do we have things in the door, they're just not ready, or have you seen a drastic reduction in the amount of applications coming through for development?
You know, it seems like it's ebbed and flowed so much over time. I mean, there's some other projects that are coming in and are getting ready to come in. It would be nice to have a little bit of a lighter load. I feel like we had a huge amount for a while. We had a huge backup because of the Amazon project, basically just pushing projects back month after month after month. It took a while to get kind of back out from under that. And there were a couple other projects that kept getting delayed, and we kept seeing them over and over again. That was kind of unique to a couple
continuances.
Yeah, that were unique to a couple projects.
Okay.
I am
That's
really
rookies.
surprised at how little I'm seeing in the way of housing development. I think I'm just attributing that to it's incredibly expensive.
Yeah.
So I don't think our process is what's slowing developers down. I think the problem is it's costing them more money to make something than they can charge once they've made it.
Materials,
Yeah.
I'm a landlord and I have
Materials,
2 units,
interest
but
rates
the
have not come down at all. In fact,
materials
they've
are
gone up a little bit
ridiculous.
again.
Right.
So-
So I think it's some of those factors. There are some other things that staff are looking at to try to ease regulations a tiny bit here and there where we can. Like one thing I think we could do is reduce the setback requirements a little bit to just allow people to have a more buildable lot, especially with smaller lots that are allowed now in the sewer core area. You would be allowed to have a 1/5 acre lot. Well, the setback then, you know, if you have a 15 or 20-foot setback or something, that's taking up a lot of space and is really creating much more of a suburban design than we might want to see. So there's not a whole lot we can do to really encourage housing, but, you know, there might be some things like that that might really make the difference for a developer.
I think I'd also like to see up on our calendar, I'd love to get a report from Planning Commission about where the zoning regulations stand, because it's been a while. And I know I was absent at the meeting that they had a lot of discussion about it the last time. So I think it would be great for us as a board to just find out, where's this at? Steep slopes, setback rules, you know, the
Buffers.
RPDI,
Buffers.
right. All of that said, like the stuff that they've been actively working on, it would be great just to get a quick report from them.
Maybe we should set up another joint meeting.
We could certainly set up a joint meeting, yeah.
The agenda for the next planning commission just went out today. So the talking about the RPDI uses, the new uses that were being proposed, and the 50-foot buffers. Well, the buffers, but in particular the 50-foot buffers.
Yeah, understanding
will
that
be
the
on
planning
that one.
commission doesn't have the final say on what gets approved, but it'd be great just to get an update as how close are they to actually getting that stuff into, you know, public warning and all of that. So that would be great. So, and I'm not the one to do it.
You guys, I always say this, you guys meet 2 hours a month, and then, are you guys working like outside on the regulations or anything?
I'm not, but I haven't been, but I mean, you've been on a work group.
Yeah, we got
that
bumped
was-
last month, and they
Yeah.
didn't put us on the schedule this month.
Yep. So there are some work groups that are working on some things that I'm aware of, but we aren't doing anything other than the once a month at the moment. And
Yeah, it seems like short time for all that has to be done. I mean, it's crazy amount of
I
stuff.
agree. Yep.
I agree, but I'm also okay with not meeting 4 times a month also, so.
Well, you don't have to.
What's the status of updating the regulations as far as incorporating all of the new state recent laws that were passed and so on? This,
I think that's going pretty well. I think that I've not been working on that directly. That's mostly something that Catherine's pulling together, but getting the updates to our zoning regulations and putting them together into one document instead of having
Okay,
the
so
zoning and
working
the
on that.
subdivision in two separate documents. I'm not exactly sure where that's at, but I think it's pretty far along. That'll be really nice when that's updated and all in one document.
Yep.
That'll be much easier to look through instead of having two separate ones to try to look at.
Or if you're talking about the other plan, but yeah.
Yeah, this isn't on the agenda, so we probably should
Yeah.
just go away.
Yep. Make a motion to adjourn, anyone?
So moved.
Moved by Nick. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Stephanie. All those in favor of adjourning for this evening, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned at 8:37 or 9:37 p.m.